Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome on into the Annie and Elsten show here, right here on 97.3 The Fan. It's a beautiful day in San Diego. I'm Annie Heilbrunn, joined by Braden Suprenant. Craig Elsten is on vacation. He is at Lassen Volcanic National Park. I finally, a lovely fan let me know yesterday where he actually was. It wasn't just some park in Northern California. So he's at Lassen Volcanic National Park, hopefully going to bring some memories, some stories back, enjoying that time with his family, but really excited to be here with all of you today and happy to get a Padres game going tonight. Man, you definitely feel the absence of Padres games when they're not there now, right? So no game yesterday, but we will get into a Rangers preview later today and take a look at their upcoming schedule. Also going to take some do some talking about the trade deadline and what might be possible for the Padres. And I'm going to get into that a little bit now here in the first segment, and we'll do it throughout the show. And then we've got Bill Shaken from the LA Times coming on. The NFL went through a pretty, for them, considering that the NFL rarely gets touched because the NFL keeps themselves, really, the shield is all powerful, right? Like we always hear this sort of thing, that it's very difficult to bring down anything about the NFL. Well, they got hit with a $1 billion lawsuit due to the way that they were streaming or allowing their games to be broadcast, a kind of monopoly of broadcasting that they were doing their DirecTV Sunday Ticket. So he's going to break that down, but moreover, he's going to turn it into what the effect might be for Major League Baseball. He wrote a really interesting column, and we're going to get into it about how that might affect what Rob Manfred wants to do and how they want to create this streaming package for Major League Baseball. We've seen it with the Padres already. They were the first team to join this kind of MLB umbrella. But how this antitrust lawsuit that's happened with the NFL it may not, but it may have an effect on what Major League Baseball wants to do with their TV package. So really interesting topic, something to take a look at while the TV broadcast arena is still the wild, wild west, which it is. Bally's is still very much going through its bankruptcy motions in court, and whether or not teams are going to be able to hold on to Bally's is still up in question. Whether or not Major League Baseball is going to get other teams to join their umbrella is up in question. So we'll get into a little bit of that and take a look at the TV deal and what could be the future, or at least some speed bumps for Major League Baseball, depending on whether or not this lawsuit with the NFL is kind of transposed over to baseball. But I want to take a look and talk about yesterday. So yesterday, James Wood made his Major League debut. Made his Major League debut for the Nationals. It was one of the only games, I think there was 3 or 4 games on for Major League Baseball yesterday. A very slow day in baseball. So James Wood was highly looked at yesterday, a very popular pick if you were going to watch a game. Nationals played the Mets, went into overtime. I'm in NFL mode. Went into extra innings, and what a loss for the Nats, by the way. Kind of the sort of along the same lines that happened with them at Petco Park. I mean, they went into extra innings, and then the Mets just absolutely, I think they put up like 5 runs or something in the 10th. And then the Nats came back within 2, but they weren't able to get it done. So that was that. But James Wood makes his debut. He went 1 for 4, worked a full count in that first AB, 7-pitch at bat, connected on a very hard hit line drive to left field. You guys remember he was ranked as the Padres' number 3 prospect, number 88 overall, according to MLB Pipeline, when the trade was made back in 2022. So there was a lot of talk yesterday about the trade that sent Juan Soto to the Padres and sent this slew of prospects over to the Nationals and Luke Voit. Luke Voit always gets forgotten in this trade, but Luke Voit was a part of this trade. I remember being on the sidelines for when this trade happened for the broadcast and screaming in horror when Luke Voit was traded. Everyone else, I was like, Luke Voit, no. He was a clubhouse favorite at the time. But anyways, so this whole slew of prospects goes over to the Nationals. Mackenzie Gore, who is part of the Nationals rotation now, key member of the Nats starting rotation. He entered the 2022 season as the Padres' number 4 prospect. CJ Abrams, Nationals starting shortstop now, entered the 2022 season as the Padres' top prospect, number 9 overall in MLB. James Wood, like I mentioned, he was a top prospect for the Padres. Robert Hassel III playing in the minors right now. Yarlene Susana also in the minors. Neither of those guys are killing it, but it was a big package. I mean, it was a big amount of players that was sent over to the Nationals. So at the time, I remember being on the sideline, like I said, for this, and I was fortunate enough to work these games where Juan Soto made his debut with the Padres. And it was one of the first times because after that, there were many, right? There were many times that Petco Park went wild. During the Dodgers playoff series at Petco Park, I mean, the place was absolutely shaking because it was so loud and the fans were so into it. But when Juan Soto made his debut at Petco Park, and I was down by the dugout in the camera well there, I had not heard Petco Park that loud in a very, very long time. The response from the fans during that time was phenomenal. The fans that I saw anyways, were so excited. They were so happy to have Juan Soto as part of the Padres. The clubhouse was excited. Everybody was excited. All right, I don't remember much talk about what was being sent over to the Nationals then. At that point, it was just, hey, Juan Soto's coming, Josh Bell is coming. This is going to get our team where it needs to go. This is a once-in-a-generation talent. This is a guy that every team would love to have, and the Padres got him. And what I remember so vividly about that time is like it was one of the first times that the Padres were able to nab someone like Juan Soto. You know, like they'd gotten Manny Machado, that before then, obviously, they'd gotten Eric Hosmer, they'd gotten some players, but getting Juan Soto was like this feather in the cap for an organization that was considered a small market organization. And quite honestly, in many ways, it probably still is a small market team. And we'll get into that a little bit later. I want to make some comparisons to some other teams in the show, but it was the first time that you felt like, no, maybe San Diego isn't a small market team. Maybe it doesn't need to operate so conservatively. It can be a team that is able to make a run for it, like the Yankees, like the Dodgers, like all these other teams, right? So I really feel like it was at the time at least embraced as one of the better trades, one of, like I said, a feather in the cap that ended up getting the Padres to the 2022 NLCS, that ended up being a big run for them in the playoffs, only their second playoff run in the last 10 years, their first one being in 2020. That one counts, but to me, not as much as the 2022 run. So I was really interested yesterday in all the talk about how this trade maybe shouldn't have happened, or this trade was something that could hurt the Padres, or something that AJ Preller shouldn't have done, or something where AJ Preller got fleeced. And it's so hard when you look back on things, right? And you say, well, yeah, I mean, in retrospect, in hindsight, you could use all those players now. You could use all those players as either trade pieces or players on your actual team that's trying to make a run for it. But the Padres were trying to make a run for it in 2022, and they got one of the best players in all of Major League Baseball. Who is still considered one of the best players in all of Major League Baseball. You could argue a little bit maybe that the window wasn't quite as open as they thought, but then I think you could argue also against that. I'm arguing against myself here, because they made it to the NLCS. I mean, look, they had a better team last year, in my opinion. The Padres had a better roster, in my opinion, but they couldn't even make it into the playoffs, right? Like it didn't click. It didn't work. Now they're back to a roster that's kind of half veteran superstar and half players that are hungry and fighting to have a spot on a team, and, one step away from being out of baseball or just coming into baseball. And that seems to be a decent recipe for them as well. So I would argue a little bit that I don't know the strategy. Like, to me, the strategy has just been get good players, try to win. Because it really, that's kind of, I guess, the one gripe I would have against it. I would say I'm not really clear on the strategy. The strategy was, we're going to get all these superstar players. We're going to go in. We're going to get Juan Soto, which did work for them, by the way, in 2022. Didn't work last year. And now they've shifted strategies a little bit, kind of because they've been forced to have more of the low-cost rookies kind of players coming up and filling in the voids around the superstars. Because believe me, if the checkbook was still open, you would have seen some bigger priced signings this past offseason. But the checkbook has closed a little bit, all right? So I look back at that 2022, and I would love to know what people think about it, Padres fans. Feel free to jump in the chat or tweet me or let me know. I don't look at that trade as a bad trade, and I'm interested. It was interesting to me yesterday to see how many people look back on it as a bad trade or something that they didn't. They look back and they're like, man, that shouldn't have happened. I disagree. And maybe I'm just seeing a lot of either fans that are, maybe not true Padres fans, because I remember this town being completely upside down at the thought of Juan Soto coming to San Diego and playing for the Padres. And it, like I said, it worked. Got them to the NLCS. Didn't get them to the World Series, but it's the closest chance that they've had in the last 10 years, but honestly, closer than 2020 even. So it was just a little bit interesting to me to see, and I watched last night and I also thought to myself, are they going to do something like that this year? Are we going to, as a collective, watch in 3 years when this graphic is displayed on MLB Network? Look what the Padres gave up in 2024 to make a run for it at the trade deadline. I would argue no. The reason I would argue no is I don't think that there's a player out there like a Juan Soto that they're trying to get. I don't think that they have the prospects necessarily, unless you're giving up the Ethan Salas, the Leo DeVries, the Lesko, the Snelling, okay? And those guys, by the way, not having the best of years. They're on the upswing, some of them, but they're not having the best of years. Still, prospects are prospects. A team can look at any of those guys and say, hey, this guy could help us. Let's get him in our development, in our system. And I could see him being a part of our piece. So I'm not saying that teams don't want those guys, but I don't think that you have the commodities, and I don't think you have the player like on that you're trying to get. I don't think that you have the superstar. You have the Juan Soto. The Padres are in a position right now where they have finances that they need to tend to. They need to stay within a umbrella, probably 10 to 12 million to stay under that CBT, that tax threshold. They've got multiple holes on their roster. They don't need Neiman Marcus right now. They don't need the designer dress from Neiman Marcus. They need the target. They need the dependable, you're going to help our team. We need probably 2 or 3 people. We don't need that singular one superstar guy that's going to make a splash, no doubt about it, but isn't really going to fill the solid needs that this team needs, which are more than one. Like, they need a reliever. They need a starter, someone to help their rotation. They could probably use another hitter. So I think that you're not going to see that kind of trade because 2 things, right? Like, they don't have the guys on the farm system that they're probably willing to give up because there's not really someone in the market, at least not right now, unless some teams end up falling out of contention, that they're going to go make a killing for, try to make a run for, like try to give up their farm for, their best prospects, the prospects that they have that are their most renowned prospects. I don't see them doing that this year. They might lose one. I could see them losing one, maybe 2 to get like back maybe 2 or 3 players. But that one big trade that we saw last night, I don't see that happening by the deadline. I feel like they've done it a little bit already with Luis Ariz. They've done it with Dylan Cease. They've sent those guys off that are kind of those middle ground, not your top 5, top 10s, but guys that are like right there in the cusp, that, top 20s or top 30s, whatever it is in the system. They sent them away for those trades, which those trades have been good. Dylan Cease has helped this team. If this team makes it to the playoffs, Dylan Cease is going to help this team. Luis Ariz has helped this team. If they make it to the playoffs, he's going to continue to help this team. So, in my opinion, that's kind of where they're at. And by the way, I would also go back to 2022, and I would look at this, okay? They traded for Juan Soto. They got so many butts in the seats after that. They got so many people who signed up after that NLCS run, after that playoff season, to say, hey, we want to be season ticket holders. Some of that is paying for the contracts that are happening today and their ability to go out there and maybe try to get another player or get another guy. So in a lot of ways, that trade did many things for them. It did things for them on the field, and it did things for them off the field financially. And now it's kind of on them to continue to play in that area. Like, we're on that playground. We're on that playoff playground. And we've got to stay in it. Like, we can't get pushed back, right? Like, we can't get pushed out of that area. We've got to stay in it, but they've got to do it now with some different restrictions, which I would also argue are helping them a little bit. Like, to me, this is one of A.J. Preller's best seasons as GM because he's been a little bit restricted. But it doesn't all happen in a silo, right? Like, I said it earlier this season, there was a mess of your own making that you had to clean up. And in cleaning it up, you've done some good things, I think, for this organization. So those were all my deep thoughts watching the James Wood extravaganza. Braden, did you have a chance to watch that yesterday? You have any feelings on this?
I had the game on a little bit. I mean, obviously it's a big prospect, so they're hyping him up, and he's supposed to be the changing of the guard of there and what he's the savior of the franchise, if you will, with the way that they hyped him up yesterday. I think he's going to be a good player. I mean, it's unfortunate he's not going to be wearing a Padres uniform, but I agree that you got to strike when you need to strike when you're in contention to win playoff games, when you have a winning record, and that was what the Padres did at the time. I mean, if we're going to sit here and sulk of everybody that we lost, I mean, you have to spend money to make money. You have to give up something if you want to get something in return. You can't just keep thinking that in the future everything was going to be perfect on perfect moves, because eventually with those guys, you're going to have to buy at a deadline, and you'll trade the next James Wood in order to do so. So, I'm not going to be wishing ill will against the guys that have been traded and hope that they don't pan out. It happens. I mean, you're creating opportunities for guys to get to the big leagues, and even though your roster right now seems like you could use a James Wood, there wasn't spots for him at the time, and there was a reason why you made that move. There's a reason why you traded C.J. Abrams. You had Jackson Merrill ready to go. If it wasn't Abrams, it was Merrill. You can't keep all of the prospects, even though you want to. It's like your little dinghy boat is sinking with all the buried treasure you had found, and you got to get rid of some of it, otherwise you're going to sink. Or you could just be like, I'm not letting any of it go, and then sink to your death. It's your choice.
You're just sitting in your house with all your treasures around you.
That's
and
right.
You're like, no one else can come in, and I can't pay my bills, but I have all these treasures around me. I like the dinghy thing. I like that reference. Orthodox Evans in the chat says, the thing is, though, Annie, we were already set up to make the playoffs before Soto got here, and when he didn't make a big enough impact in 2022 to make it all the way.
I disagree with that.
I understand what you're saying technically. Like, I understand
what he didn't carry
saying.
the team. He didn't carry the team. I mean, he made enough of an impact. That's what you do. He's a rental. I mean, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You have to go try.
Now go ahead.
What happens? What happens if they didn't trade for Juan Soto? He ends up on the Dodgers that year. Then everybody would be upset that they didn't go and trade for Juan Soto. It's easy to be the guy in the stands that doesn't have his product on the field to criticize what has happened instead of giving their own results or their own suggestions.
Juan Soto had a .239 batting average with 11 hits, 2 home runs, 7 RBI, and 7 runs scored in 12 games in the 2022 postseason. So didn't do nothing. I mean, I think there was a lot of people, Trent Grisham, for goodness sake, had a lot of those home runs, right? In the postseason. Like, sometimes it's just how it goes.
I remember taking phone calls after that saying, like, oh, we got to keep this guy because he had like 3 good playoff games. And I said, no, he had a terrible year. Get rid of him. Just because he had 3 good playoff games, don't fall in love with him thinking he's going to turn things around. And guess what he did? He had like $140 last year. Sometimes you got to let guys walk, and sometimes you got to go after it at the deadline. Padres went after it at the deadline, and it happens. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say this didn't work either.
It is, and you have to look at it in the silo that you're in, right? Like, you got to go with whatever information you have at the time. Now, could you have held on to them and said, you know what, we've got a better shot next year. But look, they did. Well, I don't know. You don't know what would happen the next year. The thing about the Juan Soto trade is, too, you've got to look at it also as who they flipped when they sent Juan Soto away, right? So you were still able to get back some players now that are going to help your team. If they make it to where they want to go, they're gonna help the Padres. Michael King, Randy Vasquez, Johnny Brito. Who else was in that trade? Kyle Higashioka.
I mean, they flipped Drew Thorpe for Dylan Cease.
Drew Thorpe. So, it all plays, but it's so hard to look at it in a vacuum. Like, Wood might go on and be one of the best players in the league, but he also might not, and same with whoever got sent to the Padres. Like, you can only use whatever information you have available to you at the time and whatever your subjective opinions are of someone, because you can't predict the future. Like, as good as these scouts are and these people crunching the numbers up in the office that wear their little polos and their vests, who all look the same. They all wear the same outfits, by the way. They all have the same haircut.
I'll play pickleball.
Yeah, they all play pickleball and slacks, khakis. they can't predict it. Like, you can do your little algorithmy things and you can punch it into your little computers, but you really don't know ultimately how these players are going to pan out.
Unless James Wood has a better career than Juan Soto, it's a wash.
Now, McKee says Soto trade was the Padres letting the league know they are ready to play with the big market teams. Now, see, yes, I agree with this. However, the interesting thing about this is, are they actually big market? And that is something we're going to get into later in this show. And I know no one wants to hear that.
Middle market.
But they're like middle market, right? They're like middle market. And we'll get into that a little bit. There's some interesting stuff I saw from other teams who consider themselves small market. So I'll get into that later in the show. But that kind of, what I think that did was let the fans know. And now they're in this area that says, hey, I'm letting the fans know, we're in it. We're trying to win here. We're trying to spend our money to get to this one place, to get to the Mecca, the World Series. And now, like I said, they got to stay in that playground. You can't get pushed out of it. Or, again, I think it's fans that will be like, well, wait a second. Where ticket prices went up or this went up. Like, we're supposed to have a run for it. And the other thing, Braden, and I know I'm going over, so we'll get into it maybe on the other side, but, like, their window is only so big, right? I mean, you gotta capitalize in the window that you're in.
Yeah, the future's it's not guaranteed. None of it's guaranteed. I mean, you could have all these guys you could have everybody get hurt next year, or you could have guys have bad years mixed in, and you just never know. You're never going to get that perfect team in the future that you keep thinking if you decide to keep all of these prospects, in your organization. So, not really losing sleep over losing James Woods. I think a lot of the problems too stem from the history of the Padres and some of the bad trades that they've made before the new ownership and before
also,
AJ
Preller has not made historically great deadline trades.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of great deadline trades out there to be had anyway. You basically are trying to buy a World Series or like load up for the World Series, and then you have to give up, some big piece in order to do that because you're desperate to go win a World Series. I mean, that's basically what the case is. I mean, we went through it the other day.
Yeah.
It's not like a ton of those players are just unbelievable players right now.
True. And trade deadline, I think that's a good point about deals at the trade deadline. The selling teams are really going to have the advantage because the teams that are buying and trying to go for it, like, they're in the more desperate spot. They're trying, their window is open. They're saying we're trying to get to the postseason, or we're trying to get deep into the postseason and get to the World Series. And the teams that are selling have really more advantage in that area because they're like dangling their little player, and there's other teams besides yours trying to get them.
Yeah, the deadline deals are interesting to me. It just depends how desperate you want to be to make these deals happen. And a lot of the teams that are, big money teams, they decide not to do that. They just go, you know what, we're going to go with what we got instead of succumbing to this, kind of trade. And it only takes one. It only takes one to make the trade happen. And sometimes you can call the
we
bluff.
saw with the Marlins.
Yeah, sometimes you can call the bluff back and be like, all right, keep them as a rental and see what happens.
Exactly. That's another thing too. The Padres are kind of in a position where you can't really afford a rental. I mean, maybe if you plan to trade him after this run, after this season, but if you're getting like a high-priced rental, you've got to look at what that's going to crowd out of all the other spots that you're going to need under a certain budget. So we are well over the break. Craig Elsten, I see a few comments in the chat. I apologize to you. He's not here. So you're stuck with myself and Braden, and feel free to do with that what you will, okay? But we've got a good show for you today, and we will keep it rolling right here on 97.3 The Fan. 10:29 on a Tuesday. Annie and Elsten show here on 97.3 The Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station. Hope everyone listening is having a great day wherever you're at. Had a little piece of audio come through the timeline this morning. Ken Rosenthal, who we all know is a national MLB writer, writes for The Athletic, does quite a few things nationally talking about baseball. He has been pretty critical of A.J. Preller in the past, and I personally don't think that it's been unwarranted. I think that he's made some decent points about things in the past in terms of trades, but I did appreciate this morning what he had to say about A.J. Preller and what he's done this year. So this was a question that was asked to him on his Fair Territory podcast or show or whatever's happening here, and Ken answers it. So I'm not sure if he says the question, so I'll say it just in case. He received a question from Tommy Wright, who asks, "Has any GM done a better job than A.J. Preller? He was forced to cut $80 million in payroll. He gave roles to Matt Waldron, Profar, Jackson Merrill, Jeremiah Estrada, Stephen Kolek, and added Cease and Arise." Take a listen to Ken Rosenthal.
Has any GM done a better job than A.J. Preller? Forced to cut $80 million in payroll. He gave roles to Matt Waldron, Jurickson Profar, Jackson Merrill, Jeremiah Estrada, Rule 5 pick Stephen Kolek, and added Dylan Cease and Luis Arias. Tommy, this is an excellent question, and you put it all together really well. A.J. Preller, I know I've been hard on him in the past at times because I haven't liked the way he's constructed his rosters, but this is maybe his best performance. And all of those names you mentioned, it's really impressive. I'll go through them. Estrada, that reliever who had that great run earlier this season, he was a waiver claim from the Cubs. Kolek, you mentioned him, Rule 5 pick from the Mariners. Matt Waldron, and I didn't even realize this until I looked it up, he was the player to be named in the Mike Clevenger trade. If you remember that trade, the Padres got Clevenger and Greg Allen and a player to be named. Turned out to be Matt Waldron. They gave up a ton. It wasn't a great trade for them. Josh Naylor was one of 6 players that went back to Cleveland. Gabriel Arias is also in that group, Cal Quantrill. It was a trade in which they probably ultimately will come out on the negative side, but maybe Waldron evens it all out. I don't know. So all of that and Jackson Merrill, a draft pick that they've kept, 27th overall in 2021, a kid that was an infielder. They converted him to center field and has been brilliant, a leading candidate for NL Rookie of the Year. So yes, Preller, amazing job so far, and of course, he is not done yet. He is active right now, perhaps the most active GM in seeking help for his team, which currently holds the second wild card with a 2.5 game cushion over the Mets. So the Padres are in really good shape right now, even with all the problems that they've had, the injuries to Darvish and Musgrove and now Tatis. It's a really impressive showing by Preller and by his manager, Mike Schilt. Let's go to our next question.
Who's this for Preller, Braden?
Hey, you know what? You got to give credit where credit's due, and
That's right.
that's exactly what this situation was. I mean, you can even go through some of those, the Guardians trade or whatever. I mean, Gabriel Arias isn't really doing anything for the Guardians anymore. Josh Naylor's the only piece really that's like, a piece that you're afraid, like that it's upset that you don't have him right now. But even like Cal Quantrill, he's a solid major league pitcher, but he's not like it's not like you gave up a future Max Scherzer in that deal, right? So you're going to give up some major league players in the future to get, somebody that you think is going to put you over the top for that big star name. And you can't sit there and try to hang on to all these average guys. And that's just assuming that the guys that you hang on to turn out to be good players. I mean, we've seen that a lot with the Padres where they do hang on to guys and they don't end up being what you thought they were going to be. And then it's like, well, why didn't we trade him when we had the chance, right? I mean, I think a lot of people might be thinking that about guys like Luis Campusano. That's another guy that the Padres have kept for so long. And right now, I mean, people are still like, oh, he's not really hitting and he's not really doing this and that. It's like, well, that's one of the guys you decided to keep. So it goes both ways.
There have been legitimate criticisms of roster construction with A.J. Preller. There probably still continue to be. I think we could point out some legitimate criticisms, but whether, and I think I would also, like I said in the first segment, sometimes I'm a little unsure about the strategy. Like we've talked about it on the show. What is the strategy? Is it build from within? Is it just go out and get the most talented players that you can afford? Is it use all your chips in the farm to go get those guys? And now we're seeing, like I said, a little bit more of a hybrid, whether that's he's kind of being forced into that, whether that is a bit of a budgetary constraint causing that, or just whether that's just the way that things are rolling this year based on things that went a certain way in previous years. Is kind of like, who knows? I mean, it could be a culmination of any of those things, but it has worked out for him this year. It almost like, I know Ben's talked about it a lot. I've said it too. It almost like, it feels like a little bit of those constraints have helped guide them to a better roster. Okay, we're gonna cut it right here. When we come back, we're gonna take a little bit more look at roster construction and look at whether the Padres whether they should operate like a big market team. Take a look at what some of the other teams around the league are doing and how they view themselves, whether or not they're going for it at the deadline. So we'll take a look at all those things when we come back. Keep it right here, 97.3 The Fan. 10:41 on a Tuesday. Welcome back to Annie and Elsten. I'm Annie Heilbrand alongside Braden Suprenant. Craig Elsten is on vacation at a national park, so hopefully having a very good time. I ran across a few articles just over the last few days that I thought were kind of interesting and a good thing to talk about as we head into this month of July. We're in it. We're in the month of July. The trade deadline is at the end of the month, and the Padres are in a position where it's hard not to see them going for it in some way or another, right? Like, they're going to make some kind of push. We already know that AJ Preller's hitting the phones hard. He's trying to get something done. And you could also argue he's already made a push, right, with Luis Ariz and with Dylan Cease. So I don't see him holding off at all. So the Red Sox, I want to get into the Red Sox and the Brewers because they're two kind of different clubs that consider themselves different ways, but I think are kind of interesting to take a look at as you look at what the Padres are sort of thinking about in their own bubble, right? So the Red Sox, obviously in the American League, but did you feel like, Braden, when you watched them, and I know that the Padres took 2 of 3, do you think that they're a team that should be going for it?
The Boston Red Sox?
Yes. So right now they're one game out of the wild card contention. They're 1.5 games out. They're right below the line. The Yankees, the Twins, and the Royals are in front of them in the AL wild card. 44-39. 44-39 is their record.
Here's what frustrates me about this is not with you, but this is what frustrates me about like who should be buying and who should be selling.
Uh-huh.
It's not the record. It's the way the team is constructed with the record.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the San Diego Padres right now, they are in a window of now mode. They have stars on their team. They have big contracts on their team. And the time you win with big contracts is when those players are as young as possible and not when they're old and you have to counteract them with young, controllable talent. Padres, that's a team that's going to be in it unless they're like 8 games under 500. They got to go for it. Teams like the Diamondbacks and the Giants, they're under 500, and like even if they had like a couple games above 500, I don't consider them in the same category as the Padres because their roster is different. The Diamondbacks are still a young team. They have like these young prospects that are graduating now to the major leagues. They're not like a team ready to compete. I know they made the World Series last year, but I think they arrived early, and I think that was an anomaly.
Yeah.
I mean, you're watching them play right now, and I know they got some injuries, but who doesn't? Who doesn't have injuries right now? Same thing with the Giants. I don't know what the Giants have been doing since Farhan Zaidi took over. They have all this money they like to flaunt and brag about. We got all this money. We could spend all this money. They don't spend any of it. They don't have any real stars. They have some young players, but they're not like in a position to compete right now. That's just looking at the National League West. You asked me about the American League East. I'm looking at the Orioles and the Yankees. Obviously, they got to go for it. The Red Sox are kind of a tweener to me because they're well enough, I think, above 500 where they got to make like a small splash, a small little move here and there to try to improve their roster. But, it's a team that I don't think they need to like sell everything to go get one guy. They're multiple guys away from potentially competing. The Astros, I don't know what the Astros are planning on doing. I guess they're in a win now mode with expiring contracts, and they're starting to climb back up and getting back from injuries. But no, that's a team that's probably in win now mode more so than not. We know the Rays aren't really going to buy anything anyway. And then after that, I know those teams are all 8 games out, but Tigers aren't in a position to buy. Rangers aren't really in a position to buy. By the way, if you're a Rangers fan, do you even care? You just won a World Series last year. It's like, yeah, we're still having a good time. We can host the All-Star game this year. Went to the World Series last year. Angels aren't buying. A's ain't buying. And the White Sox ain't buying. The Royals probably, I guess they could probably, as long as they're in a wild card spot, they could buy. But when you start eliminating these teams based on what their roster is constructed, you start eliminating teams from the buying pool. Like let's talk about the New York Mets. New York Mets are a large market. They have the biggest payroll in all of baseball, but they've already said like they're not really trying to compete. And just because they're around 500, why get off the plan that you're already on? You might as well just roll the dice. Like I don't see them being a buyer. I don't see the Diamondbacks really being a buyer. They might be a fringe buyer. Giants shouldn't buy. Pittsburgh Pirates, I think, are a prime example of who cares what their record is. They're young. Do not sell your future assets when you're this young team that doesn't have any superstars on expiring contracts. Same thing with maybe the Reds, but the Reds they've now sold their young talent for so long. They might need to go after it just to prove to their fans that they're willing to make the playoffs and they can make the playoffs. But think about all those teams that we have around 5 games. There's like 9 teams competing. I just probably poked a hole in 75 to 80% of those teams based on the way their roster is constructed. And that's why, to me, it's different than what the San Diego Padres are, depending on what their record is.
Yeah, I think all really good points. I think all, like you said, like you've got to look at it compared to the teams that are in front of you and who you think actually can make a run, but also your own team. Like what can your actual roster do? What do you know that the fans don't know about certain injuries, certain guys coming back? But so the Red Sox, and just kind of tagging off of that, Braden, the Red Sox are, like I said, a game and a half out. They have the second, if you look at the payroll, the numbers that are given to the public for the payroll, right? The Red Sox are number 12. The Padres are number 14. So the Red Sox, 176 million. The Padres, 161 million. Okay. So they're pretty close in payroll is what I'm saying. All right. Probably trying to stay under their own tax things also too, or who knows. All right. But Alex Cora came out, their manager, and said, look, we're not there. We're not where we want to go right now. Like, we don't know if we can make this push exactly, but like the teams in front of us are dropping. And we got to see what happens in a month. Like, we got to see if we can actually make a push over this next month, right? But he said, and I quote, I know we've been talking about the wild card. Let's get greedy. There's teams ahead of us. They're not playing good baseball. I know for probably one of them, it's only for 5 days. There's more out there. I think this brand of baseball, we can maintain the way we're playing. Let's not settle for the third wild card. Let's go higher and see where the season takes us, okay? So he's talking about teams in front of them declining. We've got a shot. Now, he doesn't control the money, right? Their GM controls the money, so who knows what their GM is thinking. But that's kind of a mentality you have right there, right? Like, you've got a team that there's teams ahead of you. You're not even in the wild card standings. The Padres are in the wild card standings for the National League. The Red Sox are out of it. And they're like, nope. You know, we believe we can overtake all those teams and not even settle for a wild card, right? We can be a division leader, all right? Then you have the Brewers. Okay, so the Brewers talked about their playoff contention, whether they might sell or buy. And historically, they've been pretty conservative at the trade deadline, okay? So they have a very specific strategy, the Brewers. They don't like to spend big. They don't trade top prospects usually at the deadline. They have outfielders that other teams would want, but they don't feel like they can get back enough value on the outfielders that they have if they put them out on the market, at least as of right now, okay? So they traditionally are very conservative. They're very mindful of their trade deadlines, okay? Now, they are at the top of their division. They are, I forget how many games over 500 right now, but they're a division leader, all right? And they're like,
They're 15 games above 500.
They're 15 games above 500. They're leading their division. And this is quoted in this article. They're saying the model is we have sustained success here. We're in the playoffs year after year because things are done a certain way. It's hard to argue against it. This is what Rhys Hoskins says. He's their first baseman, okay? It's hard to argue against it because the consistent success that they've had. Because of that, we trust the decisions that the front office makes. I'm paraphrasing. They have a good understanding. Then the article goes on to say that trading Josh Hader to San Diego was a huge blow to the team's morale. Now, there is some truth to this, okay?
Devin Williams was upset about that, and he was the setup guy that ended up being the closer. He got an upgrade because of the trade. He was pissed off.
And there is truth to like a clubhouse feeling like, okay, you just let go.
You quit on us.
Why would you not feel that way?
That's what you feel, right? When the front office sends away a guy that you need to compete, you think, well, they don't think we can win. They just quit on us.
And this and same as usually if you don't acquire someone for your clubhouse, it's kind of like, well, you could argue, well, we think you have the pieces already within this team, but usually a team is they're a little hungry to get a player or two in there to, feel like they're making this final push or whatever, okay, as long as it's the right players. So I just find it interesting, okay? So Milwaukee Brewers talk about how they consider themselves a small market team. We have to operate like a small market team. And that means we can't go crazy. We've got to make very mindful decisions, all right? they need reinforcements, but they believe that their reinforcements are going to come from within. They're going to come from their farm system. They're going to be able to pull enough guys up, especially on their pitching staff. They need reinforcements. Okay, so they're in a different position. Now, the Padres, it's an interesting place they're in because they don't have the money. They do not. I know everyone loves San Diego. I love San Diego, born and raised here. I love the fact that this team treats itself like it's not a small market club. And I think you said it best, Braden. It's mid-market, right? It's a middle market club. They don't have the money of the Dodgers, the Yankees, some of these high-priced teams, but they're also maybe not on the side of the Tampa Bay Rays and the
they spend money for a small market, so therefore they're a mid-market.
They're mid-market, yeah.
Again, the market thing, and it's funny, Bill Shaken, who you're about to have on, explained the market to a T, and it has nothing to do with the people that live here. It has nothing to do with the success. All it has to do is geographically where the media market is.
Yeah,
and
I
for
think
San
it has
Diego,
to do also with how much Fortune 500 wouldn't you say is available for
But like San Diego has an international border to their south. They have a desert to the east. They have the Pacific Ocean to the west, and up north is L.A. So you have like this niche little corner that you can never expand out of.
Right.
You're not picking up more households or companies. It's just a small little area that is San Diego, and there's nothing we could do about it.
That's
so
right.
even though we all go like, well, we're not small market, we're the big. Right, there's nothing we can do about it. We just have geographically we're like such a unique place.
But you're absolutely right, and because of that, because you have this media, that's like kind of where you fall in terms of how much ad money. So it all kind of goes back to ad money. The more populous or whatever your region is, like an LA or a New York or whatnot, the more eyeballs that ad money is going to see.
That ad money leaks into Orange County. It leaks up north. It leaks up to the Inland Empire.
That's
think about all of that. We got Imperial County out there.
Exactly. So it's an interesting, and I don't know the answer. I don't think there is an answer, but I think sometimes, and because of maybe the last few years, and because of some comments that were made, which I totally understand the comments, like you don't want to operate like a small market team. You want to operate like a big market team. But the reality is that they have to operate within a financial means that allows them to continue to keep this going year after year and at least give themselves a shot year after year, and probably also, get fans in the stands year after year. And how are you going to do that? You're going to do that when you're giving yourself a chance at the postseason year after year, right? So it's a very little tricky position that they're in because they have all these big contracts that they've positioned themselves with that they've got to fill in now, and they've done a good job of it to this point. But I only brought this up really, Braden, because you take a look at other teams and how they view themselves. Like the Brewers, you think those Brewers players like to hear that they're probably not going to go for it. They're going to fill from within. They're not going to get any new players maybe at the deadline. Like, they don't like to hear it, but they also can't argue with the fact that they're in the postseason every year or most years.
We're talking about an organization that has bad arbitration hearings with their players.
That's true. And the Padres do not. The Padres do a great job at handling arbitration and keeping players happy in terms of being here in San Diego.
Yeah, the Brewers like to play. They like to, and all these organizations like to call for poverty. They're billion-dollar owners. They got the money. They just it's how much they're willing to spend. And I think
they all have money. By the way, they all have money,
and they're
all making money.
And that's why a lot of them don't like the San Diego Padres, because Peter Seidler opened up his checkbook and made everybody else look bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think it was just like Peter Seidler paying for it. Like they had an ownership group that was willing to go in, and they were willing to put money in.
Right. I mean, he's not using his own money, but the owners were like, we're going to spend money as a small market.
Right. We're going to spend that money. Exactly. And now they've got to kind of figure out how to work that, in some new parameters, which might not all be that bad to have the new parameters. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk to Bill Shaken, get into this MLB TV deal or implications.
Speaking of people that have a lot of money.
We'll hear from him up next on 97.3 The Fan. Second hour of the show here on Annie and Elsten on 97.3 The Fan. I'm Annie Heilbrunn, joined by Braden Suprenant. Craig Elsten's on vacation, but we are so pleased right now to be joined by Bill Shakin, who writes for the LA Times. He's a longtime sports writer and journalist for the LA Times. Does a tremendous job covering baseball nationally, as well as the business of baseball and everything, all the little intricacies that go on inside baseball. So it's always a pleasure to see him in the Padres press box. And he was around quite a bit, Bill, when the Padres were in the playoffs, and so were the Dodgers. And I'm sure you remember that time well. So good to have you on, Bill. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
So, Bill, you wrote an article, you wrote a column a little bit ago about something that happened with the NFL, and I want to break down a little bit. A jury in the U.S. District Court ordered the NFL to pay nearly $4.8 billion in damages after ruling that the league violated antitrust laws in distributing out-of-market Sunday afternoon games on a premium subscription service. So, Bill, before we even get to the MLB connection of this, can you break down in layman's terms what happened with the NFL and this lawsuit? What were they found in violation of?
So there were basically two groups of people that sued the NFL. This was about the Sunday ticket package that used to be on DirecTV. Now it's on YouTube. But if you wanted to watch, say, the Patriots, and you lived in San Diego, this was your bet. You got to subscribe to this service. So people who owned sports bars said, well, this is ridiculous because we can only buy from one party. We can only access these games on Sunday Ticket. There's no other supplier. That's a monopoly. We don't like that. There were also people who were regular viewers, people like you and me, that said we would just like to buy a package to see the Patriots. We would not like to pay a package and see every other team in the NFL because that's the only team I care about. And that also was alleged to be a violation of antitrust law. So, as you mentioned, the NFL lost, and it's going to be appealed. Nothing's going to be resolved anytime soon. But right now, the NFL is on the hook for billions of dollars of damages.
So we know that Commissioner Rob Manfred has dreamed of starting his own subscription service for Major League Baseball, his own MLB package where all teams would be streamed under this umbrella, right? We've seen that firsthand here in San Diego. The Padres were the first broadcast to kind of go under this MLB umbrella. But you wrote a really interesting story about how, because of what happened with the NFL, it may end up that what they're trying to do may be in violation as well. Can you talk a little bit about the connection between what happened with the NFL and what Commissioner Rob Manfred is trying to do there with Major League Baseball?
Sure. It's all a little crazy. I know most people do not necessarily think fondly of Mr. Manfred. But in this case, for all the people that say, oh, I got blackouts and I got exclusivities and all I want to do is watch the team I want to watch when I want to watch it on one place. I don't want to have 50 channels I have to figure out. I don't want to pay for things I don't want to watch. I just want to watch my team. I will give you money, Mr. Manfred, if you let me watch my team. So what he would like to do, and as you mentioned, San Diego is the forefront of this, is depending on how the Valley Sports bankruptcy plays out. It's already played out, of course, for the Padres and for the Diamondbacks. They're on their own MLB-run services now. But what Manfred would like to do is have every team basically do what the Padres are doing now. MLB will produce the games. They'll make sure they're on air somewhere in the local market, on a cable channel, on a satellite, maybe over the air. And then they like to take the streaming rights national so that you could subscribe to MLB TV and you could get what everybody says they want. Their team, when they want to watch it, on one place with no blackouts. That all sounds great. So what happens in this case is that there were two charges. One, again, was, hey, well, what if I just want to watch my team and not pay to watch every team? And Major League Baseball already accommodates that. So if you want to subscribe to Major League Baseball streaming service now, you won't get all the games because of the blackout rules and some of the national games. But you do have a chance to say either A, I just want to get the Padres, or B, I want to get all the teams. So that wouldn't be an issue. The other issue, though, that came up in this case was all about price. If there's only one place I can get this, is the price higher than it would be if there were multiple people offering this? And that could be an issue for MLB if they want to be the only party offering this. They could be ripe for a challenge under what happened in the NFL case.
So do you think that they're watching this and going, okay, we might need to change course a little bit? Or do you get the sense that they think that they're in a different category from what's going on in the NFL?
I think they're watching it cautiously because the advantage Major League Baseball has that the NFL does not is that they have an antitrust exemption. So if Manfred were ever able to get all the rights he needs to do this streaming service, which is a very open question right now, very open question. But if he were able to do it, then you go to the antitrust question. Is it okay if Major League Baseball is the only party that provides this service? Because the argument in the NFL case was because there was only one supplier, the price was unnecessarily high. And if you had 2 or 3 people offering the service, the price would be lower. So the first thing Major League Baseball would do if we ever got that far is say, wait, we have an antitrust exemption. So throw it out of court. Doesn't matter. And a court could do that. But I will say, every time some politician gets upset at anything Major League Baseball does, they run to a microphone and they hold a press conference and they say, I am introducing legislation to get rid of that antitrust exemption. That's happened dozens and dozens of times. That exemption is still there. So the real way you get rid of that is through the courts. And normally the courts just say, well, this is the way it's always been. But as we know from recent developments, as recent as yesterday, the Supreme Court of the United States is not as obliged to precedent as the Supreme Court previously used to be. And one justice in particular on the Supreme Court has signaled that if a case involving the antitrust exemption made it there, that maybe they wouldn't be as deferential as they used to be. So that would be what would challenge baseball's position.
I think it's interesting because I think you can see a trickle-down effect. I mean, we're already seeing it in Major League Baseball. Like, for example, the Padres' financial situation is different this year, right? Because partly, not all the way, but partly there has been a change in how much broadcast money they receive from Bally's going now to Major League Baseball. And like you said, the whole goal of this was for Rob Manfred to get everyone under one umbrella. Now, I agree with you. You cover the Dodgers. I mean, you're close to them in Los Angeles. You know that the difficulty of getting teams like the Dodgers, the Yankees, any teams that have their own network that are making money off of it to go under this umbrella. I mean, you tell me, I think it's pretty challenging. And I'm also curious, like, what are your thoughts on the TV situation as a whole? Because it does seem very much like the Wild Wild West. It doesn't seem like that's going away anytime soon. So I do you get the sense that teams are wary and concerned about how much money they may be getting in from their TV deals going forward?
They are, absolutely. And you're right. While there are teams like the Dodgers that have ownership of their television network and are distributed by a company that is in no danger of going out of business, like they're fine for years to come. But I think the first thing to watch is what happens with the Bally's case, because roughly half the teams in Major League Baseball are on Bally channels. And if the bankruptcy court, and the probably will be decided by the time this season ends, says, okay, Bally's, you're good, then things stay the way they are for the next couple of years. But if the bankruptcy court says what Major League Baseball wants the bankruptcy court to say, which is, get out of here, you guys have no business plan, you have no money, just get lost, then Major League Baseball can at least start a streaming package with half the teams in the league, which, half is better than none. Will they ever get the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Cubs to join? I mean, there's a price for everything, but you're right, Annie, that it would be a huge price for the Dodgers to give up what they have now.
The other thing that I look at with all of that, and I'm sure, I might be putting you on the spot here a little bit. I'm not sure if you've explored this as much as like your last column on or your last story on these antitrust laws, is how much money streaming is actually making. Like, I've seen articles written about the amount of money that can actually come in from streaming your own deals or your own teams or packages, the money would be very different, right? From what you've heard, what do you know about the money that would actually be coming in if Major League Baseball did get these kinds of deals? Like, the reason I ask, Bill, is because it seems like, why do this, right? Unless you're able to make a good amount of money. But then again, maybe there's another reason that they're doing it, because I don't see the money being the big reason.
The reason you would do it is because you might not have any choice, frankly.
Essentially, they don't have the RSNs, right? Like, they just don't have the Bally's. Okay, yeah.
Right. So the economics of the RSNs, I mean, look, Rob Manfred's first choice is for all the RSNs to stay afloat and keep paying what they were used to paying. But the key to the RSN, and pretty much every package in anybody's cable bundle, was that you paid for every channel in your bundle, whether you watched it or not. You might have 100 channels in your bundle. You probably only watch 5, but you paid for all 100. So that way, the Dodgers, the Padres, when they had Bally's, every other team, they were making money off a lot of viewers that never, ever, ever watched the game. Now, for streaming, you got to sign up for it. Mm-hmm. So your rate that you were paying the Dodgers before they went on their current contract might have been $2 or $3 a month. The Padres might have been the same. But if you're going to do a streaming package, it's only the people who want the channel. That's why you're going to pay $15 to $20 a month. That's how they're trying to make it up. They won't make all of it up. The people in the league office have told me that they think they can get those numbers back up to par with what cable was paying within maybe 3 to 5 years. I'm a little skeptical of how they do that unless they further embrace revenue from sports betting.
Well, you open the door for that. So where are we at with that? Because certainly we've seen quite a few stories now, right? And you're very close to one with Ohtani and everything that happened there. But how close are we? I mean, I remember when I was working for Bally's, they tried to make that very heavy a sports betting function, of the new Bally's broadcast, and they didn't end up going that direction when I was under it. But I can't imagine that that's not on the table in terms of being a way to bring in revenue. And how complicated could that make things for teams?
Everybody wants money, and that seems to be the obvious place to get it. If your media revenue is going down, how can you make it up? And you saw, and many people probably saw, there were screenshots circulating all over the internet from ESPN's coverage of the arraignment of Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, people that the feds have now found stole millions of dollars from Shohei to support his gambling habit. On the big screen, you had a picture of the interpreter in court. On the bottom of the screen, you had the ESPN betting lines for that night's game. Like, that's where we are right now. So does Major League Baseball love it? I bet if you gave them truth serum, they'd say no. Do they need the revenue? Yes. The one thing that Rob Manfred has told people is that he was told once by Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, boy, you guys are in great position for sports betting. And what Silver meant was, with baseball, there's always a pause in the action, right? There's a few seconds between each pitch. Well, every few seconds is a chance to bet on the next pitch. Is the next pitch going to be a ball? Is it going to be a strike? Is this a bat going to end in a home run? Is it going to end in a strikeout? You don't just bet on whether the Padres win or lose. There's a ton of revenue there. And remember, of course, as everyone knows, sports betting is still not legal in California.
Right.
If and when that day comes, there's a whole other revenue source we're talking about for the Dodgers and Padres.
Pretty wild, Bill. It's pretty wild. Do you get the sense that Major League Baseball is concerned about all this? Like, is this a issue that's at the forefront of their concerns heading into upcoming years? Or in terms of the TV broadcast, how they're going to get money in, I suppose, from TV broadcasts or betting? Or do you think that this is like, we got this handled, we're good?
I mean, look, the commissioner, as much as we like to say is representing the best interest of baseball, the commissioner is elected by the owners. He represents the owners. He works for the owners. His job is to make the owners lots of money. I don't think anybody needs to be embarrassed in Major League Baseball about saying that. That's the job description. So where is the money coming from now? You can make money at the ballpark. You can raise your ticket prices, but that, as ticket prices go higher and higher, is going to depend on whether you put a good product on the field. And the Padres have always tried to do that the last few years. I'm going to say there's not a lot of teams that can necessarily say the same thing.
Right.
You can get media money, but as we've talked about, that's probably a risk given the cable collapse. So sports betting seems like a good place to look.
It is going to be interesting. Okay, before I let you go, the National League, the Dodgers obviously at the top of the division, no surprise there, but the rest of the National League pretty bunched up in terms of wild card spots and teams around 500. Is this what you expected when you were looking at this lineup coming in terms of National League teams? And what are you going to be looking for in the second half in terms of how it's going to shake out?
What I look at actually when I see these standings, Annie, is I remember talking to some people in spring training, and we all talk about competitive balance. That's the phrase baseball likes to use. That's why there's a luxury tax. And what, of course, we realize is that the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees, and before this year, the Padres, they're just going to pay whatever they want. The tax isn't going to be much of a deterrent. Mm-hmm. The real competitive balance in baseball was adding extra teams to the playoffs. Because if you look last year, the Arizona Diamondbacks finished 16 games behind the Dodgers, right? They only won 84 games. And they still got to the World Series because they got hot at the right time. So I think the message to owners is becoming maybe you don't have to spend the amount you thought you had to spend, because once you're in the playoffs, everybody's 0-0, right? The seeding might not be great, but who cares, right? Padres knocked out the Dodgers 2 years ago. They didn't care about their seeds. Diamondbacks got rid of the Dodgers last year. All you got to do is get in. So if you look at the NL standings now, there's only 2 teams in the league, 2, that are not within 5 games of a playoff spot. I don't know if that's good as far as excitement or bad, because a lot of those teams have losing records, but it's competitive.
It is competitive. It's competitive around that mid-mark. That is true, and it'll be a race to the finish here probably in the second half. But, yes, a great point. And that opening up that extra playoff spot does mean, too, that you can have a much lower record. You can finish the season a lot lower and still make it in. So it's something to keep an eye on for sure. Bill, such a pleasure to have you on. Thanks so much for joining us. Always appreciate your time, and keep up the great work.
All right. Take care, Annie.
Take care. Bill Shakin of the LA Times, covering sports business, sports media. A lot of interesting stuff there. We're going to break it down a little bit after the break. Keep it right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. 11:23 on a Tuesday. Welcome back to Annie and Elsten on 97.3 The Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station. I'm Annie Heilbrunn, joined by Braden Suprenant as Craig Elsten is out on vacation all week. And we're rolling to a holiday week, Thursday being the 4th of July. So hopefully everyone's having probably some visions of having a day off at this point, right? I thought that was a really interesting conversation with Bill Shakin from the LA Times. And I think he did bring up something that I believe is a huge part of this. And we started talking about this even last year when or the year before when the playoffs were expanded and there was an extra spot. A lot of teams this year especially have looked at the TV deals and have said, we don't know what's coming around the corner. We don't know how much money we're going to make. And some of them, it's fair, right? Like they have their budgets have been cut because of the TV deal. They feel the imminent part of it coming around the corner, not knowing what's going to happen next year and how much money they might lose. Remember, some of these teams are getting 50 million, 20, 30, 40, 50 million a year from these TV contracts. So it's a legitimate point for some of them. For others, they're just using it a little bit as an excuse. Hey, all this talk about the TV deals. Yeah, we don't know about the TV deal either. We're going to cut back on spending. Okay. They could probably afford to spend a little bit more, but they're not going to. Maybe play it a little bit more conservative or just kind of use it as a reason that they're going to play it a little bit more conservative. But you couple that, you take that. And really, this is a problem that baseball has brought onto itself a little bit because you want that playoff field to expand. At least baseball did. More teams get in it. More fans are excited. More revenue can be had through the broadcast. Everybody's a little bit happier, right? But it also kind of waters down the competitive nature of it because now you have teams that really don't have to try as hard just to get in. And he's absolutely right. That was the Diamondbacks last year. You get in with 84 wins. You take down these teams that are spending a ton of money like the Dodgers. You get past all of them and you make it into the World Series, right? And so owners talk to each other. Owners look around and go, why should we put up a lot more budget, a lot more salary when there's a good enough chance that we're going to make it in or we're going to have a chance to make it in or our fans are going to believe that we're going to be in it. We're going to be in it come September. And that's good enough. That's good enough. And Braden, I think that we see that quite a bit around the league now.
Yeah, I do see that a lot during, throughout the league. It's kind of like, we're just kind of happy to be here and this. We've accomplished enough, and we don't necessarily need to go for it. Let's get our playoff bonus and let's call it a year.
Or kind of selling the dream, right? Like,
yes.
Hey, we're still in it. We can make it. We're hovering around that, wild card mark. All we need is this, and our guys are going for it. And there's this sense of belief. And they're technically right. Like, you're not out of it. You're not mathematically out of it. The Padres were not mathematically out of it last year, even through a subpar season, right?
I didn't mind last year, like going for it last year. Again, it goes back to the window thing. It's not necessarily the record. It's the window.
Yeah.
It's like you have to do it because otherwise you're doing a disservice to your plan of signing these guys. You have to go and I thought last year was the right approach. Go make a small move, and if it works out, great. If not, well, we should have played ourselves in a position to be better last time.
Like, and you had the roster pieces already.
Right.
You had the superstars on your team.
They needed a little bit of an upgrade, right? They needed some pitching help, and they needed another bat. They made a cheap deal to get G-Man Choi and Rich Hill, and that was it. And it's like, if it works, great. If not, well, we should have played better throughout the season. It wasn't like, I think a lot of people just view the trade deadline as a let's try to slap a Band-Aid on this, and the guys that we acquire are going to be guys that are going to save the day. That's not necessarily the case. I mean, you have a couple of holes. You want to be able to spend some, maybe some prospects to go after, the World Series and put you in a better spot to position to make the playoffs. It's not always going to be like we got to fix everything and be perfect. We just need a couple of upgrades here. And when we are a team that has guys like Machado and Bogarts and Tatis and all these big contracts, right, we have to show that we're going after it every time that they go out there to play. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to keep your stars happy either.
Yeah, you've already invested a lot into your team, and the Padres, I do believe, are they try to go for it. They try to make those moves. They try to get themselves in contention. But I think that the difficulty now, too, kind of lies around if you aren't good enough necessarily to get one of the first few wild card spots, right, and you kind of hover around that last one, well, now your playing field is bigger. Like you have more teams that are also able to fight for that last spot in the wild card and try to get in on it. So there's more teams that I think can say, hey, we've spent enough money, like we believe in our team. Maybe, like you said, you add a little piece here or there, but you don't have to spend much more money, because you still are mathematically in it. You still are in contention for that last wild card spot, because that last wild card spot has really opened up for a team to not have the best record and to be able to still make it into the playoffs. And there's going to be more than one team that's usually hovering around that area. There's going to be several.
Yeah, according to ESPN, we can talk about this maybe tomorrow or later in the show. They laid out all the trades that teams should make, like 30 trades that teams should make, and they include every team on there. Based on what they said should trade for team or for players and teams that should sell, you got 19 buyers and 11 sellers right now as everything stands.
19 buyers.
19 buyers. There's a couple of that are in there that are like, they're kind of fence teams, and I wouldn't consider the Padres one of those, but they think the Cubs should make a move. The Royals, they got the Red Sox making a move. Andy, like we talked about earlier, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. I mean, those are two teams that might be able to make a small move here and there. But, there's a couple of things with that, because everybody, we put out the list of things that the Padres should do at the trade deadline, and we're going to have to compete with all these other teams. Teams might not be interested in acquiring some of those players. They might make the small move of, just trading for Jazz Chisholm, which is something that the Padres probably are not interested in. Maybe trading for a Vlad Guerrero or Bo Bichette. Those are also two names that I don't think the Padres would be interested in based on how much money those players are making. But as of right now, they got 19 buyers and 11 sellers. And a couple sellers I think would surprise some people with the team that the Padres are going to go toe-to-toe with later on this afternoon, the Texas Rangers.
I was just going to say that. And you transitioned well, Braden. When we come back, we're going to break down the Rangers a little bit. Also take a look at some of the quotes and things that have been coming out of their clubhouse, because, they're in an interesting predicament, too, as to whether they're going to go for it or not. So we'll take a look at all of that after the break here on 97.3 The Fan. The Padres Deep Dive Hour is brought to you by the Frozen Ropes Baseball and Softball Summer League, now registering softball players ages 6 through 12. 6 practices, 6 games. Improve your skills. Make it a Frozen Ropes summer. Visit SanDiegoFrozenRopes.com for more information. Do you think that they would take a non-12-year-old, like someone who's like over the age 21?
I'm sure they would.
Showing up and being like, hey,
only if they do like slow
you're
pitch.
Play some Frozen Ropes.
Yeah.
I guess there's actual leagues for adults.
Can I get some slow pitch action? It's like the adult league. I mean, they got this trophy sitting behind me that
like,
Ben Woods won.
Yeah.
Or Woods.
Or you're like getting
Paul.
smoked by the 6-year-olds, the Bo Woods of the group, or yeah, I'd be like kicking them. I want to kick everyone. Okay, the Padres are taking on the Rangers today in Texas, 3-game set. Rangers, obviously, reigning World Series champions. They are 38-46. They are 3rd in the AL West. They've had a really hard June, okay? Everything that could go wrong for the Rangers seemed to go wrong in June. They've had bad luck, bad hitting, bad injuries. We'll get into those. They were within a game of 500 on June 2nd after consecutive shutout wins in Miami. That is hard to do, to get consecutively. Oh, no, they delivered the consecutive shutout wins. Okay, so they had their wins. They were within a game of 500. Then they went 8-16. So they went on a little downslide there before beating Baltimore on Sunday. They lost 9 consecutive road games, went 1-6 in one-run games, kind of a nod to last year for the Padres, 1-6 in one-run games. But they have a lot of belief. They have a relatively easy strength of schedule for the remainder of the season. They've got more home games than road games. So there's a thought, and I read a few articles about this yesterday, that within the Rangers organization, that depending on how this next month goes, they could still make a run for it. They could still be in contention. Right now, they are on the south side of being on the fence. Here's the fence of going for it. They're a little bit on the south side of that. They've had a lot of injuries too. So this is, for the Rangers, it's important for them to win these games against the Padres. They need the wins. If they're going to try to make a postseason push, they need to show the organization that they've got it in them. But they have really been decimated by injuries. In their training room, they've got Corey Seager. He exited Saturday's game after he was hit on the wrist by a pitch. Jacob deGrom, he's throwing bullpens, continuing his push to return from Tommy John surgery before the All-Star break. We'll see if that happens. Left-handed pitcher Cody Bradford is on the 60-day injured list with a low back strain. He's behind schedule. Another Tommy John, another wrist fracture, another back. So quite a few people on the injured list, just like the Padres do. The Padres have that too, right? So they've got going, who is it? Nathan Eovaldi against Dylan Cease. So Dylan Cease for the Padres, and we got into that a little bit yesterday. They pushed Dylan Cease ahead a little bit, but he's still on normal rest. In fact, he's gotten a little bit more rest than usual because of the off days. Adam Mazur will go tomorrow against John Gray. Michael King will go Thursday versus Max Scherzer. 17 years for Max Scherzer. 17-year veteran. It's just wild.
Mad Max been pitching for a long time.
I mean, my goodness, how long is this guy going to go?
He's got so much money coming in from the Nationals on deferred payments and all these other contracts. I mean, it's insane how much he's been able to pitch.
It's insane. Underwent surgery in December to repair a herniated disc. So, again, he's aging, right, Braden? I mean, he's got a 4.5 ERA over 2 starts last year against the Padre. Career-wise, 7-4 with a 3.02 ERA in 19 career starts against San Diego, but different lineups, all that stuff. So, I look at this, Braden. I think this is a good chance for the Padres to really get ahead. I think they can win the series here against the Rangers. The defense has been struggling a lot. Also, the Rangers rank 19th in slugging. 20th in ERA, 26th in bullpen ERA. So they're not really dominating in any one category, but they are 24-19 at home this season. They've got some good hitters, right? But they're just not dominating in any one category.
No, they're a team that, again, I think they're a lot like the Arizona Diamondbacks last year, where they were a little bit early to their rebuild, and a lot of it with Bruce Bochy taking over as the Texas Rangers manager, and they got a great GM and Chris Young, who obviously we know, and there's so many similarities between and familiarities between the Padres and the Rangers that we have experienced the last couple of years. But I just think like last year was a year that they really turned it on late and put themselves in a position to obviously win the World Series. But they're kind of coming back down to earth again this year, mixed with some injuries. Padres have done such a good job against the Texas Rangers, though, in the past. I mean, if you look at their all-time series against the Rangers, they have a winning record against Texas. There's not a lot of teams that have. There's not a lot of teams that the Padres have a winning record against all time. But if you look at their last 10 games head-to-head, the Padres are 10-0. In their last 10 games against the Rangers.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good.
They'll take it, right? Going to try to make it 13.
They swept them last year. They swept them in 2021, and they swept them in 4 games in 2020. Obviously, the birth of Slam Diego.
Yeah, good point. Yes, that was where that all started.
Yeah, they played 2 games in Texas and then flew back to San Diego and played 2 games in San Diego. Grand slam in every one of those games. And then in 2021, the next year, Padres clean sweep in Texas, where the Padres have done, aside before last year, the Padres have accomplished more incredible things at Globe Life Field than the Rangers have.
Did they move stadiums, or did that already? No, Globe
2020 was the first year of Globe Life.
Okay.
And the Padres had Slam Diego there. Joe Musgrove threw a no-hitter there. Padres won playoff game there. I mean, there's a lot of things happening at Globe Life before the Rangers were able to accomplish, obviously, what they did last year. But 10-0 last 10 games against Texas.
So good vibes will be flowing for the Padres as they reminisce on all of these memories that they've had, right? The Rangers have Wyatt Langford. He hit for the first cycle of the season on Sunday and Sunday Night Baseball. He's one, their big rookie, right, for the year. But again, some good hitters, some good players on their team, but you can see collectively that they're not putting it together. They're not ranking pretty high in any of the categories. A -10 run differential for the season. So a team that also I think you don't count out. This is a team that I don't, certainly you're not looking at and going, well, this is along the lines of the Athletics, or a team that you're definitely not counting them out either, right? But we've seen with the Padres history this year, you don't want to count anyone out. But this is a team, like I said, that's on the cusp. They want to show their front office that they will make a push, that you should invest in them, that they want to get there for the postseason. But I don't know if they have enough horses to be able to do it. I don't know if they're going to be able to accomplish that, even if they try their hardest, just based on some of their stats already this year, as well as their injuries. But it's a team that probably is going to play pretty competitive against you, try to get those wins and try to do better at home and show their front office that they've got it pushing them for the postseason.
Padres have not lost to the Rangers since September 15th, 2018. Isn't that insane?
Wow, that's crazy.
Nice little winning streak there for the San Diego Padres. Starting lineup for the Jurickson Profar was on the Rangers that year.
Oh, yeah.
Jurickson Profar.
That's another thing, though. So Jurickson Profar returns to the place that signed him, that he grew up in, the organization that really formed him. And by the way, that they're hosting the All-Star game in 2 weeks there in Texas.
Which is great. I can't wait to see that. And I know Profar's been to
yes,
to Texas since leaving Texas, because he ended up playing the division as well. But that lineup that the Rangers rolled out against the Padres: Delino DeShields, Sin-Soo Choo, Elvis Andrus, Adrian Beltre, Rougned Odor, Jurickson Profar, Joey Gallo, Robinson Chirinos, and their pitcher was Alex Claudio. Padres, the last time they lost to the Rangers, this is their starting lineup: Will Myers playing third base and leading off.
Will Myers was your leadoff, yep.
And playing third base?
And playing third, yeah, well.
Remember that experiment?
Yeah, I do remember that experiment, yes.
Will Myers, Franmil Reyes in right, Hunter Renfroe in left, Eric Hosmer at first, Austin Hedges catching, Freddie Galvis at second, Javi Garrett shortstop, who's now a pitcher. I don't even think he's in the league anymore. Eric Lauer is your starting pitcher.
What year was that?
This was 2018.
Oh, wow.
Pitchers for the Padres that day: Trey Wingingter, Jose Castillo, Robert Stock. Jose Perella was a pinch hitter. Matt Strong came in relief. Francisco Mejia was a pinch hitter. Miguel Diaz also came in relief. Travis Jankowski, who's currently on the Rangers,
is he still this year?
Yes, he is on the Rangers.
Travis Jankowski, way to hold it down. All right. Had an incredible run last year. And he was so happy. I saw him at Petco last year. He was very happy with the Rangers and Bruce Bochy and all of it. So good to see him still on a team. But man, what a lineup, Braden. What a roster that was. And that was actually, I think, considered, a decent kind of exciting kind of roster, right? Like you had the beginning of Hosmer. You had Will Myers. He was, doing his thing. Hunter Renfroe.
Yeah, insane roster. That was the
Eric Lauer.
The final game of that series, the Padres did win 7-3 at Petco Park, and it did, as Brandon points out in the chat, which would give them 11 straight wins. They have won 11 straight against the Rangers.
Oh, there you go.
They hit a grand slam in that game as well. It was Francisco Mejia hit a grand slam. So it was grand slam in that game, and then Tatis hit his, and then it was so it's 5 straight. It was 5 straight games. The Padres beat the Rangers and hit a grand slam from September 16th, 2018 through August 20th, 2020.
That is wild. Okay, so if you're make your bingo card for this series, you got to put for sure grand slams. Mm-hmm. Put a no in there because why not, right?
Why not?
See if Cease, Mazer, or King can get that notched up. Yeah, some good stuff that's happened there, and that's a pretty nice record to have. So they'll look to continue that in this trip through Texas. How about Kirby Yates too? Kirby Yates is on the Rangers.
Right, he got the save, or he got the win the last time the Padres, or back in 2018 on that final game. He got the win in that game.
Life has come full circle.
That's right. I mean, think about all the. You could go through the Rangers roster in the front office. There's so many Padres on it, and then you look through the Padres roster and stuff. There's a lot of Rangers that have come through here.
This will be a nice trip for AJ Preller. He can do all his reuniting, all his Ranger people, so half of whom are on the Padres staff now, yes. So there's a lot of roster in the front office and a lot of crossover both on the field and in the front office for both. But yeah, Kirby Yates 11 for 11, 0.95 ERA. So 0.9, an ERA under 1. So had a good season.
I went to the old ballpark in Arlington. I haven't been to the new one. I've been outside the new one. My brother went to the new one about a month ago, but it'd be nice to check out their new ballpark. I haven't been to the new one.
Yeah, I haven't been there either. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Out in the park in Arlington, Texas, where they have all the fun stuff to do for Dallas and Fort Worth. They got two theme parks there. They got the Cowboys Stadium. They got the Rangers ballpark. They got both ballparks because the other one's still standing.
What are they doing with the other one?
The other one has Rangers offices in it, but they also play like the whatever the spring football league plays there, and then high school football teams play there too. I think they have soccer events, but they still use it. It's still sitting there. It's just they just retrofit it where it's not baseball anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's super weird.
So they're by that stadium though is by Cowboy Stadium.
Yeah, they share the same parking lots.
Okay, did they build a whole thing around it then? Like
They built Texas Live in between.
There you go.
Which is super cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be so fun.
Well, I went there for the Cowboys game last year. Mm-hmm. I've been at Texas Live twice, both to watch an event at Jerry's World. I saw TCU play Ohio State at Jerry's World, and Texas Live was really cool. Wedged with there was more people at that Texas Live event than there were for a Cowboys game, because Ohio State has all these alumni and stuff. I mean, they outnumbered us probably 30-1, even though we were the team that's in the backyard of Cowboy Stadium. But Texas Live is super cool. I wish, I know they were talking about having one down in San Diego a long time ago when they opened up this place. But it's cool. They have picture Seau's.
Yeah.
Remember Seau's? They had the kind of stage
the
in the middle.
restaurant?
Yeah, the restaurant.
Yeah.
So picture Seau's, but a lot bigger, and then every little area of Seau's is a different bar and restaurant.
Ooh.
So they have 4 or 5 bars and restaurants inside. They got to
You can just go from one to the other. Whichever one you want to go to.
It's all open, right?
Yeah.
You pay $15 to get into Texas Live, and then you could go to wherever you want. One of the restaurants has an arcade. The other one has, there's 2 outdoor bars. They got a stage outside where they have live music. With some bars outside. The main stage area's got this gigantic projection TV that has all the games on at once. Mm-mm. It's kind of like if you went to Nashville and you went to Broadway, but it was for sports. That's basically what Texas
Disney
Live
for sports.
Yeah, kind of. But it's all into one. It's like what ESPN Zone used to look like.
That's what I'm thinking.
Right?
Of.
It's like that, but it's not like. There's multiple restaurants there. So they have a barbecue place, they got a pizza place, they got Troy Aikman's got a steakhouse or something, and every place has their own bar, And then in the middle, you can watch all the games, and they have the audio from the games. So NFL Sunday was sweet. You go in, you can get get a drink from any of the bars and walk around the place, and you can post up, watch Red Zone. They have all the Sunday ticket games on. You could go, you could play. They got Dave and Buster style games up top at a different bar, and it's a pretty cool place to check out. Like,
it sounds fun. I think it's smart to put them there too, in between these two stadiums. Like, it was smart to make that a whole thing.
Right, and there's a lot of cities that have this now.
Yeah.
The Live, LA Live was like one of the OGs.
Right.
They have Xfinity Live in Philly, which is like a smaller version of it. They have, I think Kansas City's got one, and they usually wedge it between a couple of stadiums. But it's a cool place to hang out. It's their gas lamp version, because other than that, it's just empty parking lots to host 3 stadiums and 2 theme parks in the middle of Dallas.
Theme parks are right next to the stadiums?
Yeah, there's 2 theme parks right off the freeway, off
So you
Interstate
just go
30.
Hit your game, go ride some coasters, get a beer. Like, you have all one-stop shop
Yeah,
right there.
they got Six Flags over Texas theme park there, and then they have on the other side of 30 on Tom Landry Freeway. They have a water park, but that's only open for the summertime.
Man, wouldn't it be nice to have something like that in San Diego?
Right, because they were thinking about putting it where the Bumblebee Tuna building was, or is. That brick building outside right center field.
Oh.
Where like the tilted kilt used to be? That's now the
Putting
Navy
what
SEAL
there,
thing.
though?
They were going to put in, there was just going to be one giant warehouse it was going to be like a Texas Live.
Got it. Okay.
So it would be like a bunch of bars and stuff inside. Imagine like Bubs on steroids.
Yeah.
Is basically what it would be.
That didn't happen.
That didn't happen. No, we don't think that far in advance.
I'm pretty sure that place too is still empty.
I know.
No, not. Yeah, like the old tilted kilt is like still empty.
I think they
Or did
made
they
it.
put something there?
It's like the Navy SEAL something.
Oh, they
I
put
don't
something
know
there. My bad.
what that is, but they put that in the bottom. But yeah, you could have had a place to go hang out, big, couple stories. It's because the thing's 2 stories too. So they have bars up top and bars on the ground floor, main stage in the middle that has music, and then they do like games. They do like entertainment things in between, like contests and stuff.
Yeah.
During commercial breaks, which is super fun.
I mean, you would need you could definitely do that. Like that building would have been perfect right there in the corner over there by Gallagher Square, right? Like,
No, it'd been
just
awesome.
right there, yeah.
Right.
But if you were to have I'm trying to think of an example, if you could do that in San Diego, even if you had the NFL still, you'd have to put 2 stadiums together to have the land to put that, right? Like,
well, yeah, but you could build. I mean,
but you could have built. You could have done a much better Mission Valley Stadium and then built a whole area around that.
Well, that's what they're going to do with the Snapdragon.
Yeah.
They're putting in a bunch of bars and
they're
restaurants
doing.
on the bottom. That's what they're going to do. I mean, you could put in a San Diego Live over there, make it the place to be.
Yeah.
But that's forward thinking again. I mean, you could have done a lot of things. Because what you could have done, but we weren't forward thinking enough, is you could have put the Charger Stadium downtown, and then in between you could have put a San Diego Live, and then it's all connected, one together, and it would have been great. Could you imagine a Sunday afternoon in America's finest city? You want to watch the Padres first, and then you got the Charger night game right after.
And then just stick a amusement park right next door somewhere. Put it in the water. Put it in the bay.
Yeah, you don't need the amusement park part, but Annie wants to get on her rides.
I want the amusement park next door. All right, good chat, good talk, stuff we're never going to have here. But we'll get to the sports fix and talk about the stuff we do have after the break. 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back to Annie and Elsten on a Tuesday afternoon. It is 12 o'clock. Hopefully you're getting some lunch. You're enjoying some sunshine. You are ready to just kick it for a little bit and take in some news around the world of sports. Let's hit that right now. All right, let's get this thing started. The Sports Fix with a look around the major leagues, as I usually do. We're going to start with a story from the New York Mets. The New York Mets are always in the stories, right? And Braden, I feel like you don't mention Grimace near enough.
Grimace has been on a tear for the Mets.
Grimace is like their whole marketing campaign for the 2024 season.
What a great thing
you
for
find
McDonald's.
him everywhere now. He travels with them. Yeah, Grimace threw out the first pitch for the Mets, and they've gotten good ever since. Or good-ish. Good-ish. Okay, New York Mets outfielder Brandon Nimmo missed Monday night's game against the Nationals after fainting in his hotel room overnight and hitting his head when he fell. Mets manager Carlos Mendoza said Nimmo cut his forehead. He didn't have a concussion, thankfully. But according to ESPN, Nimmo said he woke up not feeling well around 5:15 a.m., went to the bathroom, cramped up, and fainted. When he came to, got up from the floor, he was bleeding from the head and wasn't sure why. He didn't remember any of it. He called the Mets trainers who went to his room to assist him, got checked out. He's okay, but man, that's scary. Glad he's okay. James Wood made his major league debut last night for the Nationals. He connected on a line drive to left field in his first major league at-bat. He worked the count full, 7-pitch AB, a lefty-lefty matchup. His opposite field single registered an exit velocity of 106.7 miles per hour. The Miami Marlins have designated two-time All-Star shortstop Tim Anderson for assignment, the Miami Herald reported Tuesday. I've seen a lot in the news about this morning just because it's like a kind of a fall from grace. Anderson, 31, signed a one-year, $5 million deal with Miami in February, hoping for a bounce-back season that didn't materialize. He won the American League batting title with a .335 average for the Chicago White Sox back in 2019. He made the American League All-Star teams in 2021 and 2022, but among like one of the weakest teams in baseball with the Marlins, he hasn't been able to hang on. So only 31 years old, like not old enough to be phased out yet, just not able to hit anymore.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. All right, that's all I got, Braden, but I am going to have NBA later. We're going to give that a whirl.
I don't have too much of the scoreboard.
Okay, well, there were only like 3 games
There's
yesterday.
3 games yesterday. Major League Baseball decided to take the day off, I guess. They forced the Mets and Nationals and the Brewers and Rockies to play. Both of those games went extra innings, though. So free baseball for those that wanted to watch some baseball yesterday, as well as the Astros and the Blue Jays playing on Canada Day in Canada. Blue Jays always get to host on that day. Astros beat the Blue Jays on Canada Day. They won 3-1. It was the free game of the day. Not that there was many to choose from. Josh Hader got his 13th save of the year. He did give up a bomb there in the last inning. No surprise on that one. Astros won 3-1. Nationals and Mets, or should I say the Washington Padres and the New York Mets. A lot of former Padres playing in yesterday's game for the Washington Nationals. Scored 7 runs, but they gave up 9, so the Mets go on to win in 10 innings, 9-7 over the Washington Nationals. And then it was the Rockies outlasting the Brewers in Colorado, 8-7 in 10 innings from the Mile High City. As for everybody else in Major League Baseball, as series will resume and teams will be back to playing baseball, Padres are down in Texas, deep in the heart of Texas, against the Texas Rangers. Cardinals in the Steel City to take on the Pirates. White Sox in Cleveland. Red Sox down in Miami. The New York Mets will continue their series in our nation's capital against the Nationals. Reds are in the Bronx. Astros north of the border in Toronto. Giants are down in the ATL taking on the Atlanta Braves. Tigers in the Twin Cities. Phillies on the north side of Chicago. Tampa Bay in KC. The Milwaukee Brewers are in the Mile High City. Angels and Athletics duking it out in the Bay Area. Baltimore in the Emerald City to take on the Mariners. And the Diamondbacks are in the City of Angels to take on the Los Angeles Dodgers from Chavez Ravine. That's a look at the out-of-town scoreboard. Dallas Keuchel getting the start today for Milwaukee against Ryan Feltner in Colorado, by the way.
Okay, interesting. And so Dallas Keuchel is back on the mound, the major league mound.
Yeah, all it took him was $1.
$1.
Acquire him.
Yes, that's right. It was only $1. What time? I forgot to mention the Padres game. What time was the Padres game?
5:05.
5:05. Okay.
Pregame at 4:05.
Perfect.
4:05.
Also, I saw that Roku this Sunday is going to be the home of the Padres game.
I saw that.
We can get into that later this week. But
how do you watch that?
Yeah, you have to have a Roku stick. You have to have a Roku device thing, and
all right.
I guess okay,
Guess I won't be watching.
or I guess the Roku app. I don't know. I have the stick that goes into my TV, but I don't really know where it shows up on that. I guess the app. Okay, we'll work on this. I'm going to go into the NBA. We'll see how this goes. All right. Klay Thompson will join the Dallas Mavericks, ending his 13-year run as a core member of the Golden State Warriors dynasty. The Warriors will receive 2 second-round draft picks, Dallas's 2031 second-round pick, and a 2025 least favorable pick between the Nuggets and the Philadelphia 76ers to complete the sign and trade deal. It's completed. The 34-year-old Thompson has spent his entire career with Golden State, winning 4 NBA championships and making 5 All-Star teams. This is really we're both of us, Brandon, I think, are self-professed and, not hooked on the NBA like Craig is. But I think we can both agree, this is the end of an era for the Warriors. I mean, the end of the Splash Brothers, end of a dynasty. It's kind of been going downhill a little bit, but for the Mavs, they didn't have that three-point shooter in the finals, so they get that with Klay Thompson. But I think for the Warriors, it signals like the end, right, of at least this phase. Yeah,
the big three.
The big three.
Over with up there in the Bay Area.
That's right. I guess also the LeBron offered to give money back to sign Klay Thompson, but the Lakers didn't do it. So I don't know what to tell you about that. Just weeks after winning the NBA Finals, the majority owners of the Boston Celtics are looking to sell their shares of the team. The controlling family of the ownership group, after considerable thought and internal discussion, i.e., we want to sell and get rich, has decided to sell the team for estate and family planning considerations. So if you would like to buy a piece of the Celtics and you have that kind of money,
just got laying around. Let me open up my piggy bank and see what's going on.
It's expected to be sold in 2024 and 2025. It is estimated to be valued at $4.7 billion. They are selling high, and $5.12 billion by a different, value signing thing. So they're at least above 4.5, maybe around the 4 or 5 billion mark in terms of their value. So yeah, get in on that. Braden, you gonna do it?
No.
Okay. Speaking of the Celtics, they're locking in all-NBA star Jason Tatum on a record deal. Tatum is finalizing a 5-year, $314 million super maximum contract extension with the team through the 2029-2030 season. The deal, once finalized, would be the largest in NBA history. The specific figure of the deal is an estimate based on the future salary cap. His new deal eclipses teammate Jaylen Brown's for the most total money. Tatum is only 26 years old. I want to go back to him in a second, but the last thing I have in the NBA, Paul George, the Philadelphia 76ers agreed yesterday to a 4-year, $212 million contract. George averaged 22.6 points, 5.2 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 1.5 steals per game last season. He notched his 9th All-Star appearance. Paul George, I believe, was the player that would come down and watch Padres games.
Yes.
Wasn't that him?
He'd come down with Kawhi.
Yeah, and Sport, the City Connect, and I want to go back to Jason Tatum. Do you have high school stuff today or no?
I do.
Okay, and talk about that when you're done.
Okay.
Okay.
Max Preps put out a top 25 most dominant California high school football programs of the last 20 seasons. In doing so, how they determine their rankings. Top 25 finishes in the Max Preps state computer rankings. If you finish number 1, you got 25 points all the way down through to 25 and so on. So if you got finished first, you got 25. Second was 24, all the way down. So they did that for the last 20 seasons. They also did the top 25 finishes in Max Preps national computer rankings, where you got 50 points if you finished in first, 49 to second, all the way down. 20 points for state championships, and 10 points for state championship game appearances. With all of that, they put out their top 25. Top 10 as follows. De La Salle, Concord De La Salle, the best team in the state of California over the last 20 seasons, followed by Corona Centennial, St. John Bosco, Mater Dei Santa Ana, Mission Viejo, Folsom, Long Beach Poly, Servite, Serra Gardena, and coming in at number 10, San Diego's own Cathedral Catholic High School with 209 points for their 3 state championships, their 4 state championship appearances, and their 9 top 25 finishes in the state and 1 national top 25 finish. They weren't the only San Diego school to appear in the top 25. The Oceanside Pirates appeared at number 16, had some great years from 2004 to 2014. And then Helix, the Helix Highlanders come in at number 24, winning the state championship in 2011, state runner-up in 16 and 17, top 25 finishes in 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 19. So Cathedral Catholic, number 10 in the state of California, Oceanside, number 16, and Helix, number 24 in terms of best football programs over the last 20 years in the state of California. So good to see San Diego teams represented in that.
Very good. That's cool. That's really cool.
It is cool.
Do they get anything for that? Like, will they get more money? Or, well, I mean, some of them don't need.
They get send us a plaque or something. I mean, that'd be kind of cool.
It's still cool. It's an honor. It's an accomplishment. And you get other players wanting to go there, right?
Yeah.
Like other kids. Yeah.
Top 3 programs based on that criteria, obviously. There was a lot of other schools that had really good records over that time period as well throughout San Diego. Lincoln High School being one of those.
Yeah.
Mission Hills has had really good years. Carlsbad's had good years. You can go down the list. Over the last 20 seasons, a long time, but the 3, according to the criteria of Max Preps, those are the 3 San Diego schools represented.
So I want to go back to the that Celtics thing, that the Jason Tatum deal, 5-year, $314 million super maximum contract. So think about that, 5 years, 314. Okay, like we see 350 in Major League Baseball, but usually it's like 10 years or whatever, right? Do you think, Braden, that the first billion-dollar contract is going to come in the NBA? Like, what sport do you think that will come, and how quickly?
National Football League.
You think National Football League?
Well, Mahomes already got $500 million or pretty close to it.
Probably.
I think he was pretty close to it, and they're just going to they continue to just rack up and up. And I mean, are we talking fully guaranteed money or just contracts? Because it's not fully guaranteed. A lot of them.
That's true.
Only a certain amount is guaranteed.
I think just it's its own contract. I probably feel like fully guaranteed, but like its own. We're not talking like the sum of money that you made over your entire career. Just you get this contract, and I don't know if Shohei's gonna. Oh no, sorry, Shohei. Like Juan Soto, I think will be up there. I don't think it's gonna be anywhere near reaching that mark. But it's got to be somewhere around the corner that you're gonna see a player making that kind of money.
Right.
Not too soon, but you can figure that the way that this just keeps going higher and higher, that it can't be that far away either, So Mahomes signed a 10-year, $450 million contract. So, yeah, I mean, that's $500,000.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
To play quarterback in the National Football League. But, I mean, I think eventually it'll probably go up to that point.
I mean, Shohei's is probably the closest, right? 10 years, $700 million.
Correct. I
So
can't
maybe
imagine.
baseball.
I can't imagine Juan Soto getting more than that.
I can't imagine Juan Soto getting more than that either. I think that's probably, if that's your closest, right, $700 million. I don't think NBA is that close yet. Like the highest NBA contract. I should have done all this, but it just feels like we're getting closer and closer. So I just said it's $314 million. So NBA is not actually that close.
No, they're not in comparison. But they have deal limits, right? So they can only sign for like 5 or 6 years or something like that anyway.
Yes.
And nobody's going to give these guys $50 million a year or whatever, $100 million. It'd be almost, you'd have to pay them over $100 million a year for that to happen in the NBA.
No, that's a great point. They've got restrictions on the number of years and everything. Yeah, probably I would say you're right. It's either going to be NFL or it's going to be baseball.
And if it's NFL, it's only going to be a quarterback.
And it's probably going to be right. Or it'll be what you said. It won't be guaranteed money, and they'll get a quarter of that money, and then get tossed from the league.
They'll get sent out.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right, that's your sports fix for this afternoon on a Tuesday. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the Olympics, and I'll get into also the upcoming homestand for the Padres, a few things to look forward to with that. Keep it right here, 97.3 The Fan, Annie and Elsten. Baseball coverage on 97.3 The Fan is presented by T-Mobile. Switch to T-Mobile and you can get tons of benefits and still save on every plan versus AT&T and Verizon. Use their savings calculator to find out how at T-Mobile.com/switch. I have a lot of reads to get through, like that I've fallen behind on. So I'll do that.
Uh-oh.
All right. This next homestand number 9 for the Padres, July... Is that right? July 5th through 14th? All right, that's going to go with that's what it says. Actually, yeah, they have some off days. The Padres have like 2 off days in between series at Petco Park this time. So they've got Star Wars weekend. You can join for a special Star Wars beer fest. Oh my God. I hope that you guys all go for Star Wars beer fest. Someone please go to that and like,
What is Star Wars
please
Beer
be
Fest?
in like costume.
Is that Friday?
Do your hair in like the ladies do your hair in those,
Is that against the Diamondbacks or is that against the Braves?
It's against the Diamondbacks.
On Friday?
July 5th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a Star Wars beer fest. Head to Gallagher Square for a $5 drink specials and Star Wars themed characters. Please take out your lightsabers and do that.
May the July
5th
be with
or
you.
July 5th be with you. Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
You can also get with your special theme game ticket. You can get your hands on a Nando bobblehead. I don't know how to say Calrissian.
Lando Calrissian.
Okay.
Nando Calrissian.
Okay, I'm not a Star Wars person, but I hope you have fun. And please, someone send me pictures. July 9th through 10th. Padres versus the Seattle Mariners. They've got the 84 throwback hat presented by San Diego Community Power. If you are watching this on the stream,
Oh, look at that.
you see it. It's brown, gold, yellow, orange.
That'd be their colors.
That'd be their colors. And the hat celebrates the 40th anniversary of the 84 World Series team. It is an unstructured dad hat. That's what they're calling it. A dad hat.
An unstructured
dad hat with the 84 Padres logo on the front.
So hold that back up.
Do you have a dad hat?
No. That's a dad hat? Why? What's the back look like? What's the...
Oh, maybe because it has that like...
Oh, that thing, yeah.
It has like the slider on the back.
I don't
like
see any dads wear that hat. I see girls wear that hat.
I wear those hats. I have a few hats like that.
My mom has those hats. My sister wears those hats. I've never seen my dad wear that hat.
The thing that slides to adjust.
What did they call it? A what?
A dad hat.
An
unstructured dad hat.
Unstructured dad hat because it's floppy.
I guess.
But it's not a floppy hat. But it's got the little like belt tab on the back.
Yeah.
I've never worn a hat like that. I guess like old guys wear that hat.
I think chicks do too.
Chicks do wear that.
I have
hat.
hats like that.
Yeah, there's tons of that's in style right now for girls. Young men do not wear that hat. Well, more times than not.
More times than not. Okay, but you give it to your dad. It's a dad hat.
I'd probably give it to my mom or my sister. My dad would not wear that hat.
All right. Well, either way, celebrate the 84 throwback hat. July 12th through 14th, the Padres are going against the Atlanta Braves. That'll be a fun series, actually. The Braves have been in a little bit of a tailspin, going through their own injuries of their own. That should be a really competitive series.
Padres need one win against the Braves. They win the season series.
Yeah. And that's going to be a big deal, right? I mean, like, you be able to take that and know that you're at least going to have that in your favor. Should it come to that, determining any kind of postseason rankings.
You got to rack up as many of those as possible.
Yeah.
Padres have it against the Reds now. They have it against, I got to look at the standings to remember. They have it against the Brewers. They have it against the Reds. They have it against the Cubs. Leading against the Braves. Got swept by the Mets and Grimace.
Well, Grimace is on a tear.
Leading against the Nationals as well. They play Miami. They take 2 out of 3 from Miami. They lead the Miami. Lead the Dodgers. Lead the Giants. I think they lead. No, they don't lead the Diamondbacks. Don't lead the Giants. And let's not talk about the Rockies.
Let's not talk about the Rockies, but you won't have to worry about in the postseason anyways, but...
Never know. Bud Black.
Know.
His guys play for him. They play hard for Buddy.
I don't know if anyone's mathematically out of it, so, okay.
Wow.
We'll keep the Rockies in it just because we like Bud. All right. So, Padres, Braves. Hey, how about this, Braden? July 12th, National how do you say that? Michelada? Michelada Day.
Micheladas are great. You ever had a michelada?
Sorry to everyone that just had to hear me say that.
You don't like michelada?
I probably do. It's like a beer something, right? Like
it's basically like combining a Bloody Mary and a beer. They put like the clamato juice in there, like the tomato juice with like spices, tahini on the rim, tahini on the rim.
Enjoy that and
Michelada.
Enjoy your Cerveza Fest.
Oh, money! All the Mexican beers.
On Friday, July 12th, So, yeah, $5 Mexican beer specials out in Gallagher Square.
You have to pick one to go to. You going to Mexican Beer Fest, or are you going to
I'm going to Mexican Beer Fest
the
by
Star Wars
far.
the Star Wars Fest?
By far.
Not gonna drink a blue beer or whatever the hell.
I'm
Are they
not
gonna have those
drink a
beers?
Mandalorian beer or whatever it is.
Is that what they're gonna have?
I don't know. It says no, I think it just says like $5 drink specials and Star Wars themed characters.
Oh. They should
So
have the
maybe
Star
you're
Wars
like
theme.
drinking a beer alongside.
You don't have the Star Wars themed drinks like they have at
Yoda
Disneyland and the cantina you can go to. Have you been to that?
I don't think I have.
The new Star Wars land, which is not even new anymore.
Oh, I haven't been to Disneyland in a hot minute. I need to go
we have
back.
free tickets around here. Just
somewhere.
Some people just continue to use them instead of others. But the cantina thing over there is pretty cool.
I don't know that I've even seen the cantina. Is that out in Gallagher Square?
No, they have that's at Disneyland.
Oh,
with the
sorry.
Star Wars land.
We're in two totally different places.
You can sign up. You can sign up and do the cantina thing, and then you got this robot that's a DJ, and it's a bar, and they have all these different craft beers that they have made. Like I think Ballast Point made him a beer.
Oh, really?
Like made him a Star Wars beer.
Maybe they'll have Star Wars themed drinks.
That'd be nice.
Yeah,
I think it'd be kind of cool.
I bet they will at this.
Not a Star Wars fan. I mean, you've never seen the movies, or?
I saw like the first movie a long time ago, but no, never really got into the whole Star Wars thing. But love it for the people who do. It's a huge, obviously, like a huge following for Star Wars, and it's.
I think Star Wars is cool, but I'm not dressing up for a premiere. If that makes sense. I'm not that into Star Wars.
See, I would like the dress up part. I'd be like, yeah, let me go get a costume and like be the.
Yeah, out on dressing
But I wouldn't
up.
know anything about the character.
But I like the. I think Star Wars is cool. The first 6 movies.
How many are there? Are there?
There's 9 now.
There are
I think.
9, yeah.
The 3 new ones are all right.
I mean, they're classics. They're iconic, right?
Yeah, that's
especially
cool.
the early ones.
Yeah, I mean that's if I had to pick between that and Star Trek, it'd definitely be Star Wars over Star Trek. I'm sure Craig's got an opinion on that. With his Crossing Streams.
Not Star Trek either.
No, I can't do that. Yeah. I can't do the Star Trek. But Star Wars, that's kind of cool.
Jake Waters goes, long time, Annie, was it in a galaxy far, far away? It was, Jake. A galaxy very far away. Y'all know how my memory is, and I probably can't remember much.
That's
but,
why she doesn't like Star Wars, because it's about a long time ago in a galaxy far away. Can't remember it.
So that'll be some fun stuff at Petco Park and the theme games. I guess they're doing the other pin games, like those cool little pins.
Oh yeah, I know.
This one's Joe Musgrove and Luis Campusano player pins, but you have to purchase a theme game ticket in order to receive the pins. That is the Brave series for the pins. So hopefully we got
12 games left here in the first half, the ceremonial first half.
Yeah, listen, it's like I'm telling you, it's a weird schedule. Let me pull out my trusted schedule, Brandon, that you made me. It's so 3 against the Diamondbacks, then they have a day off on Monday, 2 against Seattle at home, then they have a day off on Thursday, 3 against the Braves at home, and then they go right into the All-Star break. So they have, 3 series at home, but two off days in between, and the Seattle one is just the 2 games like usual.
Yeah, the 2 and 2. They're gonna have 2 in the Emerald City later in like August or something like that.
The Vetter Cup, yes.
25 games in 36 days. You can't complain about the schedule anymore. Time to rest up.
It is. They're going to be very well rested, this team. And then All-Star break, and you come back, and I think that you're going to be looking at pretty good health. I mean, you're probably still going to have Fernando Tatis Jr. out. You'll have Joe Musgrove out. But in terms of Xander Bogaerts, probably Yu Darvish, like Luis Campusano, you're getting all those guys back, or you should be getting them back before or around the All-Star break. So looking pretty good there.
Yeah, should be good. Hopefully they're ready to go, and they're going to make a quick second half push because they're not going to have many games left.
Yeah.
By the time the second half rolls
No, I
around.
mean, if you look at their homestand, like look at their schedule, there's just not that many games. Like they'll come into San Diego for like a 3-game stretch and then go back out. Like there's not a ton left. There's some in August.
They got home after the All-Star break. They will have a homestand against the Dodgers and Rockies, a homestand against the Pirates for 3 games, a homestand against the Twins and Mets, homestand against Tigers and Giants, homestand against Astros and White Sox, and that's it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They got 5 homestands left after the All-Star break.
It's not a lot. If you want to get out to Petco Park, do so in the second half.
Better start doing it now.
Not a ton, and if this team makes the postseason, which there's a good chance that they will, there's going to be a lot of popularity too as this team heads into hopefully October. Looking to me, Braden, looking like they're going to get there.
I think so too. But I said the same thing in 2021, and then catastrophic disaster ensued. August also is the Olympics. You wanted to talk about that?
I did. So Simone Biles. Do we have time here, Braden?
Yeah.
We're good? Okay.
Got a couple minutes here. I mean, how long do you want to spend on
No,
Simone
I don't want
Biles?
to spend that much. I familiarize yourself, if you haven't, with Simone Biles and her journey and what happened in Tokyo. So Simone Biles, the most decorated gymnast in history, literally the most decorated in history. She's just phenomenal, right? I love watching gymnastics for the Olympics. And there's going to be more Olympic talk as we get closer and closer, right, to the Paris Games. But she had the twisties, which, if you're unfamiliar, the twisties is when you're in the air, like your vaults or your gymnastics, you're tumbling through the air. You can't get a sense of where you're going to land. So your awareness and your spatial awareness is completely off, right? Like you're on the bars or the beam and you're flipping, you're upside down. And this is a woman who has been a gymnast her entire life, she wins everything. And all of a sudden in the Tokyo Games, she could not find her feet. She could not find where her landing space was, how she was going to twist in the air. And that is super dangerous, right? Because you can land on your head, you can land on anything and just be completely out of whack. So she pretty much withdraws from everything in Tokyo, takes a mental health break, takes a year off, gets very outspoken about mental health and how much pressure she felt during the Tokyo Games and how much of a headspace she was in and going through the twisties. She is 27 years old and she is incredible. I mean, her floor routine, I think it was yesterday or the day before. Go back and Google it. Watch her first pass on her floor routine. It's insane, okay? She's like 17 twists through the air and she goes all kinds of different ways. She just is incredible to watch in a sport that, for gymnastics, my sister was a gymnast, spits you out by your early 20s. Like, there's no way she should be 27 and still doing what she's doing. And yet she's going to lead this team. They're called the Flying Five into Paris for the USA. I am so stoked to watch gymnastics for the Olympics. What is your thing? Like, what is your Olympic sport that you're going to watch in the Summer Games?
I don't know. The summer game. I mean, the summer games are cool. I think I like a lot of the winter games.
Yeah.
Now more just because they have like some events that I never see. Like curling or like snowboard cross or stuff like that. But I'm trying to think of like the summer games. It's mostly like track and field events, right?
Yeah, track and field's also
But the swimming's
fun. It's cool.
Swimming's cool. The dives are pretty cool for a little bit. I don't really watch too much of the track and field. What else do I watch with the Olympics? I mean, they have a bunch of random things that I watch, like the archery and stuff. I don't really watch the team sports. Those are usually on like in the middle of the night normally, but they got baseball and softball back, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think
or is
so.
that going to be in the LA games or something? I know those are coming back. Does flag football start?
Flag football?
Does flag football start this year, or does that start in LA?
I don't know.
I think that starts
We're
in
gonna have
LA.
to brush up on our
Because I think we would have been
summer
seeing
games.
some stuff. Yeah, the ping pong's kind of cool as well. But I got to brush up on the summer games. Yeah, let's see if I can find the summer games when we come back.
Water polo. Water polo is one we're seeing in the chat. I think we're getting chat sports that are not like really true. Diesel says I get the twisties every Saturday night at Petco. Yeah. Okay. Lay off your
Fun stuff.
lay off your beers, Diesel.
All right, here's the official list of the sports: archery, artistic gymnastics, artistic swimming. You can let me know how that goes. Badminton, basketball. The 3-on-3 sounds pretty cool. I think that's a new one. They're going to 3-on-3 tournament for basketball. Beach volleyball is cool, always. They got boxing. I don't think I've ever watched that in the Olympics. They got breaking. Don't know what that is. They got the canoe events. Don't really watch that. Some of the cycling stuff's cool, where they do the racing in the cycling track.
Wait,
That's not bad.
J to the J in the chat says, can't wait to see breakdancing. I thought he was pulling my leg. He's right.
Is it breaking?
Breaking.
Yeah, breaking's on there.
What? That's going to be in the Olympics now? That's amazing.
Are you going to go judge it?
I want to judge it. Yes, I used to do. I kid you guys not. I was a B-girl growing up because I danced and I did a lot of hip hop and I did a lot of floor work, like a lot of like the stands and like just a ton of like the breakdancing floor work. I wasn't that great at it, but I was okay. Like I was decent. Couldn't do it now.
What were your genres again? You did breakdancing?
I did tap, jazz, hip hop. A little bit of like modern contemporary, but I would say
contemporary, yeah.
tap, jazz, hip hop.
What's the difference between contemporary and jazz? Don't they look the same? They kind of
No,
look the same.
contemporaries. Yeah, they kind of look the same. They're more now. You don't really see jazz. You just really see modern contemporary. Yeah. Wow. So like you can watch breakdancing or continue, Braden. Sorry.
They got equestrian. No thanks. Diving, fencing. They got soccer, golf. Oh yeah, the Team USA golf team's pretty legit.
That's cool.
They're loaded. Handball, hockey. That must be That's got to be a winter sport, but it's listed on here. Hockey. Oh, it's field hockey. Judo, marathon swimming, modern pentathlon.
Oh, I don't. Okay.
That looks like something to do with it's got a picture of a horse, a shoe, water, and fencing equipment. So I don't know what
Interesting.
that is. Rhythmic gymnastics, rowing, rugby sevens. That's kind of cool. Sailing, shooting. Shooting's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Skateboarding is in the Olympics. I think they've added that a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Sport climbing, which is rock climbing, surfing, swimming, table tennis, taekwondo, regular tennis, trampoline. Gymnastics. It's got to be gymnastics.
Okay.
Triathlon, volleyball, water polo, weightlifting, and wrestling. That is for the 2024 Olympics.
There's some interesting ones in there. There are some ones that are going to be not on the prime time, but you might want to find the alternate feeds to check out.
Yeah, it'd be some cool stuff. When's the Olympics for LA? 2030 something?
I don't know.
No, 2028 would be the LA Olympics. I think that's when you add football and stuff.
So I saw a great story in the UT. Chase, I don't know if I'm going to say this, Chase Budinger.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Chase Buddinger's playing volleyball now.
This is the coolest story. The guy was an NBA player. Some people might remember him. He played 7 seasons with the NBA Rockets, Timberwolves, Pacers, and Suns. He played 7 seasons, but he was good at volleyball when he was in high school. And he was at La Costa Canyon. And so then he like pivoted after his body was kind of breaking down in the NBA. John Maffey did the story in the UT. And he went over to volleyball. Is it beach volleyball, Braden?
Yes, he's in beach volleyball now.
Yeah, and now he is named to the USA Olympic beach volleyball team. Like that is really, really cool.
Summer Olympics for LA, which is the next one, 2028. They will add baseball and softball back, and flag football is now in effect. And the NFL, I know, is encouraging their athletes to participate.
Really?
Yes. I don't know how anybody is going to beat Team USA, but you know what?
I don't know.
Better luck to them, I guess, at this point in time. But yes, the baseball and softball and flag football will all be part of the Summer Olympics in 2028.
Adam Paul in the chat says, Chase was a volleyball and basketball player, yes, at La Costa Canyon. LCC. He was all CIF. And then Alex Bowen from Santana is on the water polo team. That's really cool.
That's great.
I love seeing those, like the connections to San Diego.
I think John Maffey will put out
for sure
thing closer to the Olympics of everybody competing.
We'll
probably have a ton of athletes for that, but we need to go to break.
Oh, hey, we're going to go to break. When we come back, Brayden, are we playing it? Are we playing a game?
We can play a game if you want. What's it? Everybody knows?
Let's play. We're going to play Everybody Knows, which is the game that is like 10 pretty easy questions on a card. Like what melts in water, and you say ice or whatever. So give us a call. What's the phone number, Brayden?
833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you want to take down Annie on the game that everybody knows, and it's so easy, give us a dial, and we'll get you on. That's coming up next on Annie and Elsten on 97.3 The Fan.
On Wednesday's show, we'll break .12:45 on a Tuesday as we roll right along here on Annie and Elsten. 97.3 The Fan. Craig Elsten's out on vacation. I'm Annie Heilbrin, joined by Braden Suprenant. Braden, you're in day 2 of the water fast.
Yes, I'm on so I started at 8 o'clock on Sunday, 24 hours last night, 12 hours would be 8 this morning, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm about to start hour 40.
Hour 40 of no food, just water, a little bit of coffee, a little bit of bone broth on your first day.
Correct.
So how are you feeling? What's the physical and mental
I feel
feel
good.
like?
I felt really good this morning when I woke up after sleeping last night. I went to bed a little earlier than I usually do. That obviously helps the process. You're not sitting there thinking about food. You can you go to sleep a little bit earlier. I had a softball game at 10 o'clock. I was like, I can't play in that. It's just going to be too much for me. I did swing OTL yesterday. Did get some OTL practice in about 5 o'clock and felt good doing that. And this morning I felt really good. I felt really good coming up and getting ready this morning. I had to be up early for football practice and got up and had my Perfect Aminos 8-ounce drink, water and Perfect Aminos, which gets some protein in your body. And I've already downed 2 of these. I'm almost done with my second of these liter bottles.
Nice.
I'll have another one of those tonight, maybe another one. And then we'll be almost through. Technically, the 72 hours ends at 8 o'clock on Wednesday.
But you're going to end it a little early.
But no, Wednesday, the 4th of July is Thursday. So Wednesday,
that's right.
like technically it'd be 72 hours, but I don't know if I'm going to eat right at 8 o'clock on Wednesday night. I might just go to sleep. And then in the morning when I wake up on the 4th of July, it'll be like 86 hours without food. And then I'll have either some Greek yogurt or some berries or like an ease-in food item before noon, and then I can resume my eating activities after that. But
Nice.
I feel great. They say it makes you more focused. It says you are like mentally a lot sharper. I don't know if I've gotten to that point yet, but I felt really good this morning. I felt relaxed and body feels good and. I don't feel cranky or anything like that. I haven't been thinking about food, and I haven't been really full either. You can have 8 ounces of coffee in the morning as long as it's black coffee. I've done that the last 2 days. That kind of suppresses your appetite a little bit as well. But no, feeling great right now. And I watched the video of Dana White because he did it. He's done it a couple of times now, and he talks about how great his body feels. And I feel really good right now.
Isn't part of your family doing it with you?
Mm-hmm.
And do they all feel good too?
I think so. I think my dad doesn't feel as well because I think he wants to work out and stuff, and he's like a little limited on that. You can work out while you do this, but it's just you're gonna feel a little tired. I think he couldn't get sleep last night because he was thinking about food. I didn't think about food. I just drank more water and went to bed, and just keeping myself busy so I don't have to think about it too much.
Yeah. I think that way might be a hard part. Like if you feel the hunger and then you can't fall asleep. Because you're hungry,
Because you're thinking about, hungry.
Yeah, or like your stomach's growling.
Yeah, I threw on some coaching clinics I needed to watch and slowly started to doze off. And then I was like, time to go to bed. And I went to bed and chilled. So tonight I'll do the same thing with the Padres game. I'll drink some water. And the thing about the bone broth, I'm going to try to make it through today without the bone broth. The bone broth does give you like that full sense. Yeah. It gives you that, full sense even though you're just drinking liquid. But that's good stuff too. That gives you 19 grams of protein in your body. All the water too, I'm putting salt in. This Baja Gold salt, mineral salt that acts as electrolytes in your water, so you are getting proper nutrition and stuff again. But I only didn't do it for 72 hours. I guess 86.
Only.
Yes. There are some 7-day fasts that people do. I will not be partaking in that.
3 days, 72 hours is pretty darn good. I mean, that's
is.
a pretty lengthy fast.
I'm now more than halfway on the 72 and almost to halfway for the 86 mark.
That's pretty nice. I mean, I commend you. Look forward to hearing the report tomorrow. Tomorrow will be our final show for the week together. Thursdays, 4th of July, so the whole station's off. Yeah, and then Friday, I think we had some mixed signals. It seemed like all the hosts were off. But Braden is going to step in and do the show by yourself, right, on Friday?
That is correct. Braden's Apprentice Show will be on Friday.
Perfect. And then I believe Sam Levitt's going to do the morning show, and then I believe Scraby will do the afternoon show.
Yes.
So that'll be fun. I look forward to tuning in and hopefully catching it on the podcast or on the app if I don't hear all of it. But yeah, it'll be a good time regardless for Friday as well. You could talk about what you ate on the 4th of July.
I don't want to overdo it on the 4th of July. But I'll definitely get some protein in my body as quickly as possible.
I was at the grocery store last night picking up some food. Not on a fast, though it's tempting now that I hear you talk about it. And I went to the 10 items or less line.
Yeah, the self-checkout.
Yeah, the
deal?
self. No, it wasn't. It didn't have a self checkout. It was just a 10.
Yeah, okay, I know what
normally
you're
I would
talking
do self checkout, but the self checkouts weren't working or whatever. So they had 10 items or less. Okay, and the person in front of me, like no shame at all, had like I don't know 25, 30 items. Like just was like laying it down, And we kind of got there at the same time, and he veered like his cart, like right, in front of me. It wasn't like, oh yeah, you go ahead. I know I've got too many here. I've got, more than 10 in my cart. What's your take on that, Braden? What's your take on people? Maybe he didn't see the sign.
How many items did he have?
He had like 20. Like he had like 20, 25. Like he had a full cart almost.
If I got items that are like you look at from your cart, like it's around 10. I think that's fine. But anything more than that, if you have 20 items in there, it's like, dude, read the sign.
If it's not egregious, like it's 12 or something, like who cares, right?
I
but
agree.
if it's like a full cart, or maybe you just didn't see the sign. Maybe how sometimes like you think like there's so much injustice against you, but someone just didn't see the sign.
They didn't see it, right? They're just oblivious.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, how's it going? I'm just in the checkout line. But yeah.
We have some I wouldn't say breaking news, but some news from the Hollywood Reporter.
That's more important than my checkout line.
Haley Welch, the Hawktua girl, has signed for representation with management firm The Penthouse.
No.
She now will have a lawyer and a agent to help her out. The world's gone crazy for Haley. I'm glad her team can help guide this rocket ship. All the podcasters are right. Spend 5 minutes with her and you'll see why she is America's sweetheart, the Penthouse founder, Joni Forster, said in a statement. Her immediate prospects include looking to launch her own social media channels after gaining internet fame with an X-rated clip following an on-the-street interview with Tim and DTV. Please Don't Wake Me 2 weeks ago. It was just my granny and me in an itty-bitty Belfast, Tennessee. Then I say something silly, and now my life has changed. Isn't God great? Can't wait for what's ahead, Welch said on her own statement. What is she possibly going to do?
Listen, I love the fact that this is America. Okay, this is America. You do something like that, you can make your own destiny. You can have opportunities come your way. You're living with your grandma one day, you're in a mansion the next day. It's great. It's phenomenal. I think it says something about the world we're living in where these days it's almost like if you're trying to kind of do things almost like the right way, like quote unquote, like I'm gonna get experience. I'm gonna go through the
right.
it
Go to
doesn't
school,
matter.
Learn how to do it in school, and then do all this other stuff.
You're gonna get rewarded a lot faster if you go viral and you capitalize on it.
Right.
That's kind of like the way the world is now, which is crazy. And I don't know how long it'll last for her, but she's cute, she's young, she has an opinion on things. Maybe she will start her own, what does she want to do? Her own social network?
Her own social media thing or something. I don't know. I mean, it was a funny video. She's a cute girl, right? And she's 21 years old. But like,
to get all
people
that,
are just gonna want to listen to her podcast. No, like her. Now, so now all of a sudden, we care what her opinion is on things. Like it's amazing to me. I mean, good for her, but it's like she's gonna make all this money because she said something funny while she was hanging out at the CMAs, and now all of a sudden she has a podcast. It's amazing the level of technology, or the reach that people have, and your ability to create your own content nowadays, and how many people are quote content creators.
Yeah, I know. I mean, everyone's a content creator now, right? Like if you're posting something on social media, I guess everyone is. But 21, I guess you ride it as long as it lasts, and we'll see how long that is. But it's wild. I mean, that clip has gone everywhere.
It's insane.
All right.
It's gone too far at the. All the podcasts just try to use her to get some ratings and stuff.
Oh yeah, she's gonna drive up theirs with the. I'm surprised she hasn't been asked to do it again. Like she's gonna get asked by someone to.
We'll see how long the one-hit wonder lasts.
More up next. 97.3 The Fan. Annie and Elsten. The Odyssey app lets you jump back to the moments you missed on 97.3 The Fan. While you're listening to 97.3 The Fan, you can see what you missed and click to listen on demand. Missed a guest, feature, or if something crazy happened earlier today? We've got you covered. Download the free Odyssey app, search 97.3 The Fan, and tap earlier today to get started. That comment about the Huck to a girl, Braden, made me, it's not the same, but made me think about Matt Stafford's wife.
On a podcast?
Did you see this? So Matt Stafford, he's the quarterback for the Lions. Is he the quarterback for Detroit
He's on
still?
the Rams.
He's on the Rams? Okay, he got traded,
He won
moved
a
around.
Super Bowl at the Rams.
That's right.
He used to be with the Lions.
Right. His wife went out on a podcast and said that she used to date the QB or hook up with the backup quarterback in college just to make Matt jealous, like just to make him upset at her for doing so and try to get him to like be with her by doing that. But like she said all this on public record, put it out there, made it a thing, had to apologize to the backup QB's family after that happened because it was like dragging them into it.
I didn't even think about that.
I was talking to a former NFL player who was like, you wouldn't imagine, but like things like that, because he would get clowned so much in the locker room for this, can destroy a season because she's putting something that should be private out there publicly, and guys are going to just grab onto that and kind of, give him a whole lot of trash talk for that sort of thing, right? And probably kind of innocently, like, right? Like it's just a funny thing
that's what guys do,
right?
100%.
But it'll grate you down. It'll kind of wear you down, and then the embarrassment of it. I personally felt like you never do that to your dude. You never do that to your dude. You never embarrass him like that. Put it out there that you just kind of use the other guy to get to him and kind of manipulate him into liking you.
Try to keep your personal life personal. I mean, that's a philosophy I kind of try to live by, and I don't need to be airing out my grievances on air about my personal life or what I'm doing or who I'm doing them with or anything like that. I like to keep that private, but then I think you got to go, like when you sign up. She knew what she signed up for. Like you gotta protect the at that point you're protecting the family brand, not just the Matt Stafford brand. That is the Matt Stafford brand is the family brand. I don't know what you could potentially gain out of that, right? I mean, what do you need more fame? Like, you don't need more fortune. You don't need more fame. Yeah. Just like live your life and don't have to worry about it. If you want
got millions of dollars already.
Yeah, if you want to tell that story to your girlfriends or whatever, fine. Or like that is a conversation that happens when like couples are hanging out together, right? And then it's like, oh, well, that was in college. Like, and they've been drinking and having a good time, and it's in a trust circle, a circle of trust.
Yeah.
Not on a podcast where a bunch of random strangers are listening to it, especially guys that potentially are going to be Matt Stafford's teammates because they're going to see it on social media. And why would you do that while he's still playing?
Right.
I mean, are you kidding me? Like, guys say some dumb stuff in clubhouses and locker rooms, and nothing is off the table when it comes to smack talk. And not only is it his own teammates, I mean, that's exactly what the other team's going to do to try to get in his head all the time.
Bingo. Like, as well as I do, in a huddle or when you're at the bottom of a pile, or you get taken down, or someone's just passing you on the field, like that's going to be, it sounds stupid, right? Like, well, be mentally tougher than that, but that's the sort of thing that can just grate you down when everybody knows that information and everybody's kind of using it to their advantage one way or another. But yeah, you never kind of want to come out and say that like you completely manipulated your husband and slept with the other guy just to get him to like you. Like that might be true, but like keep it to yourself, Kelly.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a diabolical move. Women. All right.
Oh, hey.
Come on. What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
This could be the roles could be reversed easily on this sort of thing.
I don't abide for either side doing that. That's kind of ridiculous.
All right, Braden, let's flip topics. I know we're going to get to some trade talk. Or some, right? It was trade talk?
Yes. Is. Here are 9 questions that, if I can find it again, wherever it went. 9 questions that are facing National League clubs ahead of the trade deadline. And the Padres are obviously a part of this. We'll get to the Padres in a second. We'll try to answer these questions together. You can answer first, then I'll answer. Question number one is they're all contending teams, mostly. We'll have a question about the Phillies, the Braves, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Brewers, Marlins, Cubs, Padres, and Giants. Question number one, we'll start with the team that's in first place in the National League. It's the Philadelphia Phillies. Philadelphia has been one of the best teams in the majors this season, despite marginal production from the outfield, where the Phillies' 653 OPS ranks ahead of only the Pirates in the National League. Losing Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber to the 10-day injured list is unlikely to ease any lineup concerns in Philly, but unless either or both of them miss significant time, the outfield remains the club's biggest long-term issue. Can the Phillies find some help in the outfield?
I mean, Nick Castellanos has surged up a little bit. He's trended up in recent weeks, right? 7 home runs, 20 RBI. He's got an 804 OPS in 31 games since May 23rd. But I think they could use some help in left and in center. They can add an outfield bat, whether that's maybe Luis Robert Jr., that's Ian Happ. Tommy Pham is another one that's going to get floated around. I don't know how he would, heck. Phillies, I think the Phillies that might be a team that he'd actually thrive in, I think, and that the Phillies would embrace Tommy Pham. But I think that they could get a guy there, and they have the means to do so within the Phillies organization.
You think they, who do you think they target? Do you see the best fit? Is it Tommy Pham?
I think maybe Tommy. I think maybe Tommy would be a good one for their team.
I think the Phillies could pull the trigger on that.
I do too, and I think getting him from the White Sox, everyone knows he's going to be dealt, right? The White Sox are dealing everybody, and Tommy knows that. He knows he's part of the White Sox just to get dealt at the deadline. I don't know what the Phillies have, in their farm system, right, or what they're going to try to trade with, but I think that Tommy would actually be a very lunch pail kind of fit, right? In Philly, where that's like a workhorse kind of team, a little bit no nonsense. They've already got an edge of their own. I think I'd actually be a good fit with them.
I like Ian Happ for the Phillies as well. I think that he kind of fits their team also, but I do believe that they can find some help in the outfield by the trade deadline. Speaking of the outfield, are the Atlanta Braves still shopping in that department? Ronald Acuna Jr.'s season-ending knee injury left the Braves in need of outfield help, bringing back memories of 2021 when general manager Alex Anthopoulos acquired Jock Peterson, Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, and Adam Duvall after Ronald Acuna Jr. suffered a similar injury, giving manager Brian Snitker a variety of options to use in the outfield. This year's club also dealing with the loss of Michael Harris II, who is out until late July with a hamstring injury, putting Anthopoulos in a familiar position. They got Jared Kelenic, Adam Duvall, and newly acquired Ramon Laureano are the manning the outfield at the moment, as Atlanta would prefer to leave Marcell Ozuna as a DH-only role. Braves might have to wait for the buyers and sellers to begin declaring themselves before they have a firm grasp on which outfielders might become available, but Anthopoulos will surely be keeping close tabs on the market in the coming weeks. Do you think the Atlanta Braves will acquire an outfielder at the trade deadline?
I don't know. They need one, yes, and they are, like I said, a little bit in a free fall. They can use some help to get their team to have the buffer that it had at the beginning of the season. I think Anthopoulos does a good job. I think he's creative with what he does. He tends to make good moves for the roster for the Braves. Would you take one of those guys that we just mentioned, an Ian Happ or a Tommy Pham, maybe? This also brings up for me, like the story I was talking about earlier with the Brewers. The Brewers have outfielders to deal, but they just don't think that they're going to get value back, like that they to move them essentially. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see who ends up bending and who ends up breaking at this deadline, because this is now several teams that are going to need some help in the outfield. What about the Padres? The Padres might need some help in the outfield, and we've just gotten through 2.
Yeah, it's not a lot of outfielders to go around out there in Major League Baseball, but I'm sure the cream will separate.
That's true.
From the crop at this point. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Dodgers. On paper, the Dodgers rotation has more than done its job this season. Tyler Glasnow, Gavin Stone, James Paxton, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto all pitching to an ERA between 2.73 and 3.39. But Yamamoto is on the injured list with no clear return date. Walker Buehler is dealing with right hip inflammation, and Clayton Kershaw's return from shoulder surgery was recently slowed down by lingering soreness. Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May are no locks to return from the IL this season. Do the Los Angeles Dodgers need to add starting pitching?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
Yes. We don't want them to.
No,
here,
but they do.
But they do. Like they are like everyone's been hitting the injured list for them.
Out of all the Dodgers teams that you've seen over the last couple of years, the last 10 years, let's just talk about their National League West championship streak. And I know the Giants won one during that group. I feel like this is the most vulnerable Dodgers team that we have seen out of those groups of teams, even though they still lead the Padres by 7.5 games, even though they're 52-33, even though they never seem like they're missing a beat. But with injuries to Mookie Betts and, throughout the lineup, the bottom three in the lineup not being good, the starting rotation obviously having question marks, and the bullpen not necessarily being one of the best in baseball, this seems like a team that actually needs to make multiple moves at the deadline.
I agree. This is a team that spent so much money this past offseason, has a ton of holes, a ton of question marks, gone through also injuries, but also just doesn't have the consistency from the guys that have been healthy that they were leaning on. That's what kind of, to me, why they needed someone. If they're going to make a run for it, they need help in that starting rotation because that's not their only place they need help. It's not like they're just looking at it going, hey, let's patch up this rotation and we're going to be good. Like you just mentioned, you went down that laundry list of things that they need. To me, Braden, this looks like, why would this year be any different for the Dodgers? They're going to pop into the postseason, and unless, roles are reversed and I don't know, they just have a change of fortune, you start to feel like they're just going to get popped right back out.
I think they do need to address the starting pitching position, unless the Dodgers believe that Bobby Miller and Landon Knack can hold down the fort until the others begin to get healthy. According to President of Baseball Operations Andrew Friedman, may have to pursue other starting options before the deadline. The expectations for this club are too high to go into a stretch run with so many question marks. I agree with that.
They're all in.
They spend all this money.
They
can't not be in at the deadline.
They're all in.
Let's get to the New York Mets.
Oh, I love the Mets. Okay.
The Fighting Grimaces.
The Fighting Grimaces, yes.
They've changed their name. For the past month or two, it seems like fait accompli that the Mets would be shopping Pete Alonso, who is slated to become a free agent at the end of the season. But New York's recent run, thanks to Grimace, a 15-4 record since June 3rd, entering Saturday, has the Mets in prime postseason position, only one game out of the National League wild card spot. How the Mets fare in the first 3 weeks of July should determine their buyer-seller status at the end of the month, but owner Steve Cohen isn't the type to want to pack it in for a second straight summer, so if they're within shouting distance of the playoffs, it wouldn't be a shock to see President of Baseball Ops David Stearns try to add on the margins before the deadline, albeit without sacrificing many of the young players he acquired during last year's sell-off. Will the Mets become buyers by the trade deadline?
If the Mets can stay within the pack, which they are right now, they're below the Padres, right, by 2 games, maybe 1.5 games or whatnot.
They are 16 games out of the division, and as for the wild card, they're a game and a half behind St. Louis, 2 games behind San Diego.
Okay, that's right, because Padres hold the second wild card
Correct.
right now. Yeah, so I think that the Mets go for it, or at least try to make some marginal additions. Like maybe you aren't blowing up the budget here, or blowing up the farm, or blowing up whatever you have to get some trades. But I think that you try to make at least you try to make your team a little bit better, and you ride it. Like they're in their little kind of rebuilding, whatever they're doing over there in the Mets land. And I think if you're staying within the hunt like they are, you ride it. I want to go back to the Dodgers a little bit. I see this comment in the chat from Chris. Dodgers made an offer for Crochet. So Chris, yeah, I don't know if they're making an offer yet, but they are definitely seem to be in on Crochet. And I thought that was interesting too when I read about their use for it. So they're looking at Garrett Crochet too, like, hey, this guy's going to be blowing past his career innings. But I think that the Dodgers are looking at Crochet like, okay, well, we can use him multiple ways. We'll only use him for a few innings here, a few innings there, maybe out of the bullpen, maybe if we need help in the rotation a little bit. But that's also a little bit of a dicey thing to play because there's still a big question mark around Crochet. So there's quite a few teams in on Garrett Crochet.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams in on Garrett Crochet and a lot of teams that could use the pitching of Garrett Crochet. As for the New York Mets, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they become buyers. I think that goes against their plan of what they wanted to do when they sold off a lot of their players last year. I know they're spending a lot of money in payroll, but to me, they're not a team that just because they're relatively around that spot that they're all in. But we'll see what the Mets decide to do. Let's see if they balk at their plan.
Grimace might be enough for them. That's their trade deadline acquisition.
That's their big pickup.
Yeah.
I wonder what Mr. Met feels about Grimace.
I know. He's so ousted.
We'll talk about Milwaukee, and then we'll finish this up when we come back. Milwaukee has been in first place in the National League Central every day since May 9th, using a solid offense and superb bullpen, which could get Devin Williams back before August to cover up its rotation issues. Brewers have been without Brandon Woodruff all season and have lost both Wade Miley and Robert Gasser for the season, while DL Hall is still out with a knee injury. Joe Ross isn't expected back until late July, and Jacob Junis is working his arm back into shape out of the bullpen. Can the Milwaukee Brewers acquire enough rotation help, now knowing, by the way, what they have talked about in not really trying to go after too many spots? Currently, the rotation is Freddie Peralta, Colin Ray, Tobias Myers, and Bryce Wilson, while the Brewers acquired Dallas Keuchel this week to fill the final spot, who is starting for them today. Is that enough for the Brewers to make a push to the playoffs and win in the playoffs, or do they need to acquire more rotation help?
I don't know if it's enough. I don't know if they're winning in the playoffs. I think that they're trying to make the playoffs, and they've got what. I don't think that they try to get more outside pitching help. I think, like we read this morning, or what we saw in the news this morning, they go internally unless something changes in the next month, and they feel like they don't have enough arms to get there. I think they go internal and they hold on to the value that they have with the other pieces that they have, and then they make some offseason moves to try to better their club.
Trade candidates like Jack Flaherty, Eric Fetty, and Cal Quantrill could make sense for them for a team that doesn't want to add too much in payroll, which I believe as well. They're not really notorious for spending money.
I guess if you could get a guy like that, right? You're not getting you're getting an arm that's solid, not spectacular,
right.
but a solid arm.
Arm.
Right. I could see that. I guess you're not giving up that much if they want to give up anything. Like you'd be giving up, some prospects that aren't your top prospects.
Will the San Diego Padres go all in again? We'll talk about that when we come back. This is Annie and Elsten on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Final stretch of the Annie and Elsten show here on 97.3 The Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station. I'm Annie Heilbrunn, joined by Braden Suprenant. Craig Elsten is on vacation at a national park. So, national parking is what he's doing.
He's national parking.
He's national parking.
Been to national parks?
I actually have not. My mom's been to quite a few.
You haven't been to, there's like none?
No, I don't think I've been to any.
You haven't been to any, you haven't been to like Yosemite or Yellowstone or, I mean.
It's kind of sad.
Zion, Bryce King.
She's been to all those. My mom's been to like everyone.
We used to go, growing up, we used to do like camping trips to a lot of those places. We did a RV trip when I was 6th grade, 7th grade. All the way up to Montana and back. Our family friends have a cabin in Montana, so we did like this long 2-week vacation in the middle of the summer where we went up, through Vegas, stopped at Zion National Park, and then went up to Salt Lake City for a day, and then went Salt Lake City to, I think we went to Montana straight at that point. Stayed in Montana, Dillon, Montana for a couple of days, did some hunting and fishing and outdoorsy things at the cabin, which had no running water, by the way. No running water at the cabin.
Wow.
It was an outhouse, and they had a shower house, and they had other things. No running water. They had a well that you had to bring in to like wash dishes and stuff like that. Had electricity, but no water. And went whitewater river rafting.
That's cool.
In Idaho. And then after the couple of days in Montana, went to Yellowstone, camped in Yellowstone. Then camped in Grand Tetons, then camped in Bryce Canyon on the way back, stopped in Zion again for the, for an afternoon, and then went through Vegas all the way back through. But it was really cool. We did an RV trip, rented a Class C RV with the family, and it was a fun trip. It was a great trip through all these national parks, and I haven't been to one in such a long time. I missed doing that during the summer. It just gets so busy with everything that I do during the summer to be able to take that. But the RV camping's fun. Beach camping over in San Alejo is great. It's just the times we go camping, it just conflicts with a lot of things that I do.
I would love to see. I love nature, so I would love to see the national parks.
You love nature and you haven't been in national parks?
I know. I don't. I just lots of stuff. Has gotten in the way. I think of some of that. But Jake in the chat says Annie is not an outdoors person. So correct. Like, I'm not like a camping person, but I love like
being outdoors.
To see nature, or to see like beautiful nature places. But sometimes I think a lot of my travels have taken me a little bit more toward like beachside and whatnot. But
you have to reserve spots to hike now. That's lame. It's in the chat.
Oh, see, that's kind of lame.
Super lame. But
I would do glamping. Have you heard of glamping?
No.
It's like
glamour
fancy camping.
I mean, isn't camping in an RV kind of fancy camping?
Yeah, I guess that's considered. Yeah, I guess that's fancy.
The
camping.
RV, I mean, camping in an
has
RV is
everything
great.
you need.
Yeah,
right.
I'm done with we did the tent camping. We're done with the tent camping.
I've done beach camping.
Beach camping's fun too. It's still fun in an RV. It's great. You don't have to worry about things. You can watch the Padres.
Yeah, you have all your
when you come
all your basic necessities.
Everything's charging and stuff like that. But I missed going. We did Yosemite a different time. It was great. I've done many different national parks, which is super fun. But yeah, I haven't done that in a long time. So a little jealous of Craig. He gets to enjoy the outdoors, do some campfires, all that fun stuff.
Are you a s'mores person, Braden?
I like s'mores.
Yeah, who doesn't like s'mores?
Yeah. I like eating s'mores more than I like making s'mores, but I like s'mores. I like mixing up the chocolate too. Have you done like s'mores with like a Reese's?
Oh no, I haven't.
It's good stuff.
I haven't lived yet.
You have
done
not.
That.
Well, you haven't been to a national park and you haven't had a Reese's s'more. What is going on? That's good stuff.
I got to put these on the bucket list and get it done. Tell Adam, hey, I'm out.
I'm going
out
camping
for a few weeks. I'm going to see all the national parks.
They're trashing s'mores this morning. What?
Were they?
I don't mind s'more. I mean, they get messy and stuff, but they're good. They're also like 500 calories a pop, so like one's probably fine. But I don't mind the s'mores thing. I don't need a bunch.
We have conflicting. Yeah, we do have conflicting views at the station.
What's gross about a s'more? You don't like marshmallows and
Maybe
graham crackers and chocolate? Now I'm going to get myself hungry, which I can't do right now.
Did you ever, as a kid, make s'mores in the microwave?
No.
Oh, me and my sister did that all the time.
You could do if you're during the.
You have to be careful because you get real close to burning.
Yeah.
Burning that's burning smell, that plasticky marshmallow burning smell.
The juice isn't worth the squeeze, the morning show said. I mean, it's
No,
that's half the fun is making a s'more.
I think that you have to be a little aware of the messiness of it, right? Like sometimes it can get too messy.
Right. No, I agree. I like that's why I like the Reese's. Keeps it a little bit cleaner.
Okay.
But
okay.
Like for me with s'mores, am I going to get a s'mores thing on a menu item? No. If we're making s'mores at a fire pit, yeah, I'll make one.
They're just like hanging around outside.
Right, like
the sticks right there.
Like the Cheesecake Factory has a s'mores flavor. I'm not necessarily ordering that ever. Right? And when Starbucks has a s'mores frappuccino, I don't need a s'mores frappuccino.
Yeah.
But if we're making s'mores around a campfire, it's kind of it's more of an activity. It's fun, and then you get to enjoy the taste.
Adam,
I mean, I'm not going to be a fuddy-duddy about it and just be like, well, I don't like making the thing. Have your kid make one. The kid loves making s'mores. Make sure he doesn't eat the 500-calorie s'more, 15 of them. I'll have one. Yeah, here, make me one.
Adam Paul in the chat says there's an art to making a s'more. I would agree with that.
You have 100%.
And you have to know how long to hold it over the fire.
Yeah. Have anybody seen The Sandlot?
Yeah, of course.
You want a s'more?
Yeah.
S'more what? You're killing me, Smalls. Doing it over a candle in a treehouse. I'm sure that was great. Great idea. Stuff they could do back in the 60s that you can't do anymore. I'm in on s'mores. S'mores are good.
What other treat do you make that like takes that kind of effort? Like
a treat? I mean, like you can make like a pie. It takes
I guess
a
it
long
could be
time.
like a sundae. Like,
but are you talking about like individual?
Like if you're camping, there's really
that's
really the one that you're doing.
Really
that's
make.
Like yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you're like tent camp, you got to bring. What are you gonna bring? Like a cooler to keep your ice cream in?
Lisa says some people use Charleston Chew in between the graham crackers. Oh, I feel like that would like pull out your teeth, kind of.
You could do a lot of different. Pick your favorite chocolate, and you can make a s'more out of it. But the fact that people like it burnt is crazy.
I like it a little burnt.
A little char on there.
Yeah, a little char.
I don't mind it. The golden brown. I mean, you could sit there for 40 minutes to make the perfect s'more, or you could just light it on fire immediately, put it out, and then throw it on your chocolate and call it a day. That's good. Rehydrated beans and rice is a nice camp treat.
My nice camp treat is room service.
Oh my God. How do you? Annie's a person that just said she likes the outdoors, but she doesn't want to sleep in the outdoors.
I like
is
the
that
outdoors
what it is?
to visit, and then I like to go back to my hotel room or my
room,
glamping tent.
or have a bathroom and a shower and
I'll
running
go hike,
water.
And then go back to that.
And then I can go down and get myself a dessert at the bar and restaurant in the hotel.
That's right.
Or if I'm lazy enough, I'll just order the room service and bring me an ice cream sundae to my room.
Very rarely will I get room service for real because it's obvious it's like so expensive, and a lot of times the food's not very good, and you gotta be in the right place for that, the right mindset for that.
I agree. The menu's got to be enough for me to make it worth my while, where I can have them deliver it to me, where I don't just order DoorDash to the front door.
Right, exactly. Now they have a whole section at hotels where you like stand off to one side, like the side that's like. It's almost like you have branding on you that you order DoorDash. It's like a whole area that you get herded to, and that's where they drop you off.
When I was traveling with TCU football, I wish we had DoorDash.
Oh, it so
was
convenient.
Just starting to like come around where like you didn't really trust. Like, what am I gonna pay?
Yeah.
What am I gonna spend all this money for McDonald's or whatever? But like on the road in some of these places, it's like, all right, well, we're staying an hour outside of civilization, because an hour outside of Big 12 cities is nothing. And you're trying to like, what are we going to do for dinner? Where are we going to go? I can have, look, there's a couple places around, but I'd have to cross a freeway to get there. I'm not going to Uber to go get this food. And I travel with USD Baseball for the regional, and like they get their per diem, and they're just, I mean, one of the kids on the team ordered DoorDash 4 times in one night.
Oh, wow.
Because he ordered something, and he ate it. He ordered like this. He ordered a steakhouse. I'm like, these guys are nuts. And he ordered like a steak and a side, whatever it was. Wasn't enough for him. And he was still hungry like 2 hours later. Then he ordered again. I'm picturing the kid going down to the lobby 4 times in one night to pick up 4 different DoorDash orders in Santa Barbara.
They're already annoyed with you for doing it, right?
Right. They're like, oh, look, here comes another player ordering more DoorDash.
When I traveled for the Padres broadcast, it was a lifesaver because you'd get back in from the game so late, and the hotels would usually keep open a room service menu for an hour after the game ended.
Oh, for the team?
Mm-hmm, for the team, exactly. It was like a menu that only the team got, really, the teams that were staying at the hotel, because that was kind of a condition of the team staying at the hotel. So if you made it back in time, you could order off of that. But a lot of times we were on the late bus by the time post-game got over and the manager spoke and you're out of the clubhouse. You're on one of the last buses to leave. So you need a DoorDash or Uber Eats or one of those if you were going to eat at all on those trips.
Well,
but
especially if you want to like kind of try some of the local flair.
yeah, if you want to try some of the local flair for sure.
I ran into Honeycutt last year and Sullivan at Ray's Pizza in New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were walking.
Well, that's cool.
Honeycutt,
Honeycutt, Honeyham,
whatever. I don't know. He wasn't very nice. So
really,
yeah, he was kind of because my brother. I mean, I recognized them, but like I tried to like not. Being a member of the media, I don't interact with these players at these places. Yeah. I don't want to deal with it. But my brother was wearing a Padre hat, and he was like all fired up. He was like, "Oh, look, it's like, hey, what's up, guys?" And they just looked at him like he was nuts. And it was like a Padres fan on the road.
What was his What was like his cool signature pitch? He had a.
Oh yeah, he had that. What was it?
God, the screw. No,
yeah, he
no.
threw a screwball or something.
I can't remember what it was, but he was really territorial about talking about this pitch. Like he did not want to.
He was super standoffish all the time.
Yeah,
and
he
then
was very
like the
standoffish
Ray's
about
Pizza
it.
thing, I was like, okay, dude, you ain't that sick. I mean, I was like, I was disappointed. Not like
you meet your stars, Braden.
But it wasn't my
What
star.
happens?
Like my brother was like, hey, what's up? Like, go Padres. And they're like looking at him like, nah. Sullivan at least gave him a smile,
right?
But like
right.
Honeywell was like,
they weren't having it. They weren't having the groupies that day.
He was locked into the Ray's Pizza, and it wasn't even like my brother like wanted a picture or anything. He was like, hey, what's up? And that was it.
Like if you saw Joe Musgrove or Matt Strom or and they'd all be like, hey, how's it going? Blah blah blah. Like
I mean, I feel like if you're a player on the road, right? Like, and you see a Padres fan, and they say, hey, what's up? And they're like on their way out. Like just like a casual, hey, how you doing? Like not like a,
not like you're trying to pose for like 17 selfies or something.
Right. I don't need you to sign anything. Just like, hey, go Padres. That's literally how it was, and it was just like that. All right, sick, dude. You do you. Where's he playing now?
I don't know. Where is he playing now?
Where's Brett Honeywell playing now? Is he even playing, or is he selling insurance?
Oh,
Brett Honeywell. Where's Brett Honeywell at?
We don't want bad things for Brent. We're wishing you the best, Brent Honeywell.
Yeah, just try to be nicer to fans next time.
I don't think he's anywhere.
No,
he might be in a minor league
system. He's wearing a Pirates hat in this picture on MLB.com, but he has not played in 2024.
Yeah.
He has not played in the minor. He's AAA for the Pirates. He's in Indiana.
Going to the pizza places in Indiana.
Yeah, well, maybe he's giving the Indiana Indians fans a head nod when he walks out. Ray's Pizza is good, though.
I love the fact that you've held on to this.
I remember. I take my notes. The players that are cool, players are not. I mean, like Joe Musgrove's got to be one of the coolest players ever.
Yeah, he's almost overly nice with his time. Like sometimes it's like I'm like Joe, like but he's cool with it. Like he walks away when he needs to, but he's like overly generous with his time.
He gets it though. He's a guy.
He gets it,
right?
And he's from He's from San Diego, and
again, it's not my interaction with Honeywell. It's just watching my brother interact with him. And I mean, like I was at the game. We did the tour at Yankee Stadium. And, it led into Padres batting practice. I'm sitting in the stands and, I don't want a baseball again. I mean, it's different now being in the media. Like I'm not a fan anymore.
Right.
I mean, I'm a fan, but I'm not a fan, if you know what I mean. Like I'm not going to ask anybody for an autograph. Like I don't know if they remember who I am or not, which they probably don't. But I'm sitting there in the front row and like Blake Snell is just looking at me. And I'm like, why is
just like staring you down?
I'm like, why is Blake Snell looking at me right now? I'm like, Blake Snell's looking at me, and he keeps looking at me because I'm wearing a Padre hat, whatever. And I'm in the front row. I'm just observing batting practice, taking in Yankee Stadium since I had never been there. And he's just kind of looking at me, and I look back at him, and he gives me a head nod. And I'm like, okay. And then he like kind of shows, like he kind of gives me this look like holding the ball, like, why don't you want this?
Oh wow,
like,
he was insulted.
He was like, why aren't you asking me for this right now, as a fan? Because my brother was over somewhere else. Oh no, he didn't do the tour, and my buddy was somewhere else, and he was just like, you want this? And I was like,
so Blake.
I was like, give him a head nod. He throws me the rock, and I'm like, oh, all right, cool, thanks. So I ended up giving it to my sister, but he was looking at me for like 5 to 8 minutes, just going, why isn't he asking for a ball? He was so confused about a Padres fan in the front row not begging for a baseball, which I thought was hilarious.
That's great. That's a good story. He was into it. He was like, come on, man.
Yeah, and I'm like,
this isn't what usually happens.
I know you don't know who I am, but I'm not asking for a ball. Because the last thing I need is for me to show up to the clubhouse the next homestand and be like, wait a minute. I've seen this guy before.
But at the same time, yeah, like you go to interview him and he's like, hey, man, didn't I throw you a ball?
Yeah, wait, didn't I throw you a
week?
ball? What? Yeah, wait, what were you doing
How'd
out
you
there?
get in here?
Yeah, and then the Padres were mad at me for no reason. I didn't need the headache. Didn't need the headache.
You want to stay away from the drama.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not, you know what? I'm not one of those fans anymore. You know,
I do like that Blake was looking out for the Padre fan.
Yeah, he was
know?
like looking to deal the rock.
Looking to deal the
the
ball.
rock.
He was
you know?
like,
and I was right
I don't want
there.
to give this to just anyone.
You know what? And I had to take one for the team and accept the rocks. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll give it to my sister. And they flipped it, got it. I was like, Sid, look, got you a ball. So it was fun stuff.
I like it. It's
yeah,
good stuff.
see the difference between Ray's Pizza and Blake Snell batting practice. Guys that get
You're like, take
guys that don't.
notes, Honeywell.
Right? Just be cool. I mean, just be cool. I understand.
Don't
I
be
know,
weird.
I know it's a different lifestyle, right? I know it's like you get inundated all the time.
Yeah.
But when you got guys like Joe Musgrove that get it all the time, that have to represent his city, and he's cool with it, yeah, it's a guy like Brent Honeywell. You got to be better.
I can see where guys don't, or sometimes it's like someone's just having a bad day, right? Like they're
Yeah,
just having a
true.
bad day.
I don't
Maybe
wanna
they had
deal with
something
people.
personal. But at the same time, if it's not someone asking you for something, it's just like a hey, what's up? You know, it's someday you're not. I always tell this to players that gripe about interviews or whatnot. Someday no one's going to ask you. No one's going to ask
Right.
you. No one's going to recognize you. No one's going to know who you are. And like a lot of times they'll have kids and their kids will get into them being this professional athlete and they'll look for interviews or they'll look for stories or whatever.
Right.
And it's like, you don't think about that stuff sometimes when you're playing, but I NFL guys would tell me that all the time. They'd be like, no, it's no problem. Happy to do it. I know someday no one's going to ask me to do it anymore. Like it seemed like it was more prevalent in the NFL that you think ahead a little bit to like, hey, this is probably pretty cool, and like my kids might think this is really cool one day, and you know if it's not super bothering me, like I'm gonna embrace it. I'm gonna lean into it because it's not gonna be there forever, you know. And so yeah, a little head nod, a little wave, a little acknowledgement, a little smile. But sometimes I do think that they're having a little bit of bad days, and maybe they just don't want to get into like a full blown conversation, you know.
I think it comes to the territory too of what you're signing up to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
That's some of the downsides of your job. The fun sides of your job is you get to play a kid's game at a high level and get a lot of money to do it.
Yeah.
The downside is you got to deal with fans and stuff all the
Right.
time, and it's part of the deal. I'm sure, Annie, you get autograph asked all the time.
No.
No, you don't have people saying hi.
I
know
used
they
to
do.
get at when I would come off the field, there would be some like nice kid that would be like, "Can you sign my ball?" I'm like, you probably doesn't even know my name, you know. And I would just like put Annie with a little smiley face or a heart.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times where, like I don't want to like talk to people. We do remotes and stuff, and people want to come up and say hi, and you gotta say hi.
Yeah.
I'm always down to say hi.
Oh,
so if you
yeah,
guys see me in public, just come say
fans,
hi.
Right. I thought you meant like autographs and things. No, that's not really
No.
happening. But no, fans talking. You know, that's really it's a beautiful part of it. I mean, you expect it, and I feel fortunate if fans want to chat or they recognize me or they want to talk baseball. Like, you feel fortunate for it.
Yeah,
because,
it's cool.
Yeah, you get to be part of.
I mean, it's weird at the same time.
It's a little weird. It can be a little weird.
But like, if you want to come up and say hi, come say hi. Like I had
or at games, especially, I think it's pretty
right.
normal.
Or like
yeah.
games and remotes, there's always people that are afraid to say. It's funny, like the dude that listens to our show, like will go to the remote, right? And then he'll be like terrified to come say hi to us. And then his girlfriend will come up and be like, he doesn't want to say hi to you. He's just kind of afraid,
Yeah.
but that's my boyfriend over there and he loves your show. And then we like to wave him over. Hey, come on.
I will say as a woman too, sometimes I think I might come off a little bit reserved, but I think that's also just me, you know, in general out in public. I think just as a woman sometimes like there's been some weird stuff
There's
that's
different
happened.
rules and there's weird
Yeah.
people out there and there's,
Yeah.
it's different.
I've learned that
People are
the
asking
hard
you
way a
different
few
things,
times. Right.
For sure.
So I sometimes I'm just a little more careful than other times. But no, I think it's really cool that people are interested and people, you know, a lot of times people just want to talk baseball. Like they, you know, I'll get a coffee somewhere and someone might realize it when I pay or something. And they want to talk baseball or they want to talk Chargers or they want to talk some kind of sports. And it's like, oh, cool. You know, like it gets you in a good mood, you know?
Yeah, it's fun. Or they'll be like, oh, remember when you said this to Craig or Braden?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they'd be like, oh, yeah. And then they like, I love that. That's pretty cool stuff. But-
Orthodox Evan says Tiger Woods was terrible with fans at Torrey Pines in the early 2000s when I was in middle and high school.
And you remember it.
Hey,
that's
and
the thing.
yeah,
you remember
do.
it.
Would it shock you to learn that Tiger Woods was not terrible with me when I was covering the golf, the tournaments? It'd always take a little time to be favorable to.
He was cool in his older age when
whoever
I had to
was
deal
out
with him.
there, female. Yes.
I mean, it comes with experience, and those guys. I feel like the older veterans start to understand it right when they're about to leave.
Yeah, but it is true that you remember the people who didn't stop for you. You do. You remember the people who didn't sign, or the people who didn't stop, or the people who didn't give you your time. Like, those stay in your memory just like the ones that were gracious with their time and generous with their time. And like, you're never going to be perfect. Like, no guy
Right.
should be asked to be 100% on all the time. Like, they're human too. They need to regroup and recover, and they have personal stuff going on in their own lives. But more times than not, you want to be on the right side of that if you can be.
And at least be like, if you can't sign or something, like just apologize or say, hey, I'll be here tomorrow or something like that. That usually goes a long way. But yeah, we got to take a break.
All right. Got into a long conversation there about
Good stuff.
graciousness in sports. All right. We come back. If you would like to call in for Ask Us Anything, please do. Call us up and we'll get you on air for Ask Us Anything, or give us a question in the chat. Coming right up for the final segment of Annie and Elsten up next on 97.3 The Fan. Final segment of Annie and Elsten here on 97.3 The Fan. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. Always appreciate all of you listening. Tons of Padres talk earlier in the show. Make sure to go back and check that out, either on the YouTube stream or on the Odyssey app. You can chapter it and check it all out. We had Bill Shaken on at 11 talking about the MLB TV situation, a little bit about the National League. So some good stuff on there. And as always, just very much appreciate you being along for the ride. I received an email from Douglas in the break. Douglas, shout out to you. This was really nice of you to tell me. So he emailed me and he said, if you've ever been up to the old Point Loma Lighthouse, Cabrillo National Monument, you have been to a national park. It's a small one that doesn't have a campground, but it counts. Douglas, I have absolutely been there many times, so I no longer am going to say that I don't believe I've ever been to a national park. I have been to the Cabrillo Monument many, many times. Thank you, Douglas.
There you go.
I feel better. I will sleep better tonight.
I know we had some in town. I was like, there's no way she's never not been to a national park. I mean, it was like a field trip, like in school.
Right?
Had to have gone at least one.
Douglas, I appreciate this. Also, he has a great email. I'm not going to read it on air, but it's a nod to the first name of the Qualcomm Stadium. So we appreciate that. The old name. Okay.
The Murph.
Yeah, the Murph. Yeah. I'm just.
We'll
I don't want to get to. I don't know why I think I don't want anyone to
Yeah, we'll move on. Is it time for this?
Okay, it's time. Hour 4 of the program, almost at an end, taking you right up until Gwen and Chris. Do we have someone on the line, Braden?
Dexter in Spring Valley is there.
Dexter in Spring Valley. Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Dexter.
Got to say that, you guys are Craigless, but you guys are killing it.
Thank you.
I appreciate the fact that you guys are actually speaking regular English as opposed to NPR English, and you're just kind of laying it all out for us. It's much more fun and entertaining. You're trying to keep things on the flow. But I have a couple of things real quick. Number one, and this is something that the both of you could research, I think, because you guys are obviously not old enough to remember this.
Give me a homework assignment, Dexter. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that we're not old enough.
All right,
yes.
All right.
Compare. It'll be a fun one. Trust me. Compare the current team, the makeup of this team, with the 1984 World Series Padres, because there are a lot of similarities with the wily veterans, the young guns. With the pitching, all of it. It's like they're like very, very eerie, but awesome comparisons that can be made with those two teams. And then the second one is a question, and the question is this: Comic-Con's coming up in a couple 3 weeks. Are you guys going to be doing anything for that?
I don't think so.
No, first of all, love the suggestion about the 1984 team and the comparisons. Always fun to look at the makeup of a team and check out maybe, like you said, some similarities, some characteristics that might be similar between the teams. Comic-Con, no, I've covered it many times for the Union Tribune. I don't believe that I'll be there this year, but I've been there, done that, if that makes sense. It's a good time. Brayden, have you ever been out of Comic-Con?
I've been to Comic-Con one time.
Yeah.
I got free passes because my buddy's dad was in charge of the gaming department at Sony, so we got to go down there one time, and it was cool. I mean, I'm not really that into that stuff, but you could buy a bunch of cool things that they like. I'm
not into that much crowds.
No.
Yeah, but I did dress up. Shocker to no one. I dressed up as I don't even think it was like a theme. It was just whatever I could find in my closet, like a tutu, and I don't know. Also, I think that Dexter was saying our vocabulary is not as smart as other people's, but I like it, Dexter. I'm going to go with that. We're just not as,
We'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Thanks for hanging with us. Gwen and Chris up next.